Chapter 802. When the name Yu Fei was shouted, Luo Xiaobai and Lurenquang looked at each other. What kind of stupid name is this? There were originally nearly 250 sea demons. Because the leafless tree knew that they were here to kill it, it had been targeting the sea demons from the very beginning. After that, Han Fei contributed a wave of heads. In addition to the 2 wars with human beings, the leafless tree had taken action once. Counting the consumption of the 2 divine weapons this time, the number of sea demons finally dropped. There were still 89 of them. Among them, 8 had been seriously injured. Why were there 8? Because after Han Fei's attack, 2 seconds later, someone walked out of the void. Obviously, those immortal seals hadn't been consumed yet. However, even though they were revived, they were still illuminated by the bone transformation spirit lamp for a breath's time, causing them to be heavily injured. However, the half-mermaid expert in front was completely crazy. He activated the secret technique of Sea God's Descent and rushed at the human beings with the phantom of a golden giant. If 1 or 2 of them did this, it wouldn't be a big deal. But 12 people activated the terrifying secret technique of Sea God's Descent at once. On the human side, Chao Jiaran didn't even have time to wipe the blood on her face. She crushed a fist mark of the Chao family and threw it out. Ignoring those who had activated the secret technique of Sea God's Descent, a massive amount of vines surged out crazily. Among the human beings, several captain-level figures walked out. They had all accumulated a lot of strength. At this time, they had to come out. In an instant, all kinds of secret techniques, companion spirits, and contractual spiritual beasts crossed the entire sea. The Overlord, who hadn't moved, had already rushed out with Frostmourne. Because 2 experts who had activated the secret technique of Sea God's Descent were rushing at him. Hula! The terrifying blow of Snowmourne swept at the 2 experts. As Han Fei expected, the sword shadow was crushed. However, Han Fei clearly saw that half of the golden phantom of one of them was extinguished. Immediately, Han Fei calculated the attack power of Frostmourne. With his current strength, the power of this blow was probably equivalent to that of an intermediate peak-level Hidden Fisher or an advanced early-level Hidden Fisher. Swish, swish, swish. What shocked the 2 powerhouses was that the Overlord was actually able to attack continuously with such terrifying power. The 2 of them were dumbfounded. Who the hell told me that this man could only attack once? Both of them still remembered that someone had sworn that the Overlord had only used 1 sword strike at that time and had cut 7 people into pieces. Unfortunately, at this time, both sides were too fast. They were fighting in a sprinting state. You want to hide? It was too late. 7 strikes in a row, and the 2 men were instantly chopped into pieces. When they appeared again, Han Fei killed them with a slash. When Dying Strike was activated, the Overlord slashed again with Snowmourne. Although the other sirens saw this scene, they were already fighting with the humans and could no longer rush forward to attack the Overlord. Moreover, even if they wanted to target the Overlord, someone had to be willing to do it, right? The other 10 experts who had used Sea God's Descent were already entangled. At this moment, he could not come over. Even if ordinary geniuses came, they wouldn't be able to defeat them. Han Fei sneered. Why don't you see what I've used? I'm using top-grade demon stones. Last time, I only infused them with spiritual spring. How could they be the same? However, Han Fei slightly frowned. 1 strike consumed almost 30,000 points of spiritual energy. An ultra-quality demon stone contained 520,000 points of spiritual energy. In other words, he had used almost 270,000 points of demonic energy to kill 2 people? Han Fei couldn't help but grimace. This consumption was too fucking high. It must be his problem. His level was too low. It seemed that it was imperative to improve his strength and deduce the void fishing art as soon as possible. After killing these 2 people, the Overlord immediately rushed into the battlefield, carrying Snowmourne, and only aimed at the experts who had used Sea God's Descent. Someone roared, "Block it!" The person who was called rolled his eyes. Why don't you go and block it? In this situation, whoever blocks it will die. Just say it if you want me to die. Seeing that the ordinary heavenly talents refused, Yuji rushed up. She also used Sea God's descent. She hated Han Fei to the core, but she was still rational. She shouted, "This person needs 3 strikes to shatter Sea God's descent. Take turns. He can't hold on for long under such a terrifying attack." On the other side, Lu Renkuang wiped his armor box. "Fuck you, eat my bloodthirsty broadsword." Among the sea demons, a man with a dark face, holding a weird shell in his hand, suddenly shouted, "You fight, I'll go kill the leafless tree." Then he pointed at Han Fei. "If you don't come, the leafless tree will die." With that, the man suddenly disappeared, leaving a mist of blood in the seawater. "Blood escape," Luo Xiaobai said. "Go, he has a divine weapon. No one here can stop him for the time being. We can fight him head-on. You guard the leafless tree." The overlord rushed out, and Han Fei, who was underground, also rushed out. Han Fei jumped out and responded, "Xiaobai, Xiaobai. Why do you think I look like I can block the attack of a divine weapon?" Luo Xiaobai said, "The leafless tree can't die. When we go back, I'll ask for materials and credits for you. If your puppet is destroyed, I'll go back and get the materials back for you." Han Fei smiled bitterly. As expected of Luo Xiaobai, she's so clear about the big picture. If it were me, I might just go with her. Anyway, I'm not going. After a moment, when Han Fei came to the leafless tree, he saw that within 100 meters of the leafless tree, there was a tangible barrier. However, the barrier flickered like a half-broken electric light, as if it would go out at any time. Obviously, he was too slow. This old tree might have been struck once. Han Fei finally saw what this old tree looked like. It was a bare tree with only 6 branches in total. And it seemed that 3 of them had just been broken. The whole tree was no more than 20 meters high and 2 meters in diameter. On the tree, there was a big old face. At this moment, he was quite calm, and when he saw Han Fei, he even raised his eyebrows. Han Fei complained, "Uncle Tree, after this fight, you'd better give me something good. Otherwise, I'll suffer a big loss." The leafless tree said, "Don't be distracted. If the barrier breaks, as long as he uses a divine weapon, I will definitely die." Han Fei stood in front of the barrier and sighed. Looking at the harpoon that was already stabbing at him with huge waves, the overlord swung his sword. However, that guy didn't care at all. The overlord's sword couldn't shatter this guy's sea god phantom. Han Fei immediately roared. He fully activated the majestic mystic spell and the Sea King's secret method. "Forget it, I'll just let the Sea King absorb some vitality. At most, I'll make up for it later." Han Fei was wearing a golden battle suit, holding the sacrificing punch, and Little Fatty and Little Gold were attached to him. Boom! The big crimson seal soared into the sky. This punch was Han Fei's strongest blow now. If he couldn't even resist a blow from the opponent, he would go home and sleep. Bam! The 2 of them were sent flying back almost at the same time. Han Fei bumped into the barrier and almost destroyed it. The captain-level powerhouse widened his eyes. How can he be so strong? This guy was actually able to block his attack with his bare hands? Han Fei twisted his neck and immediately poured a large mouthful of candle dragon blood into his mouth. Then, a layer of lightning appeared on his head, and he waved his big sword. Lightning blade. A thick electric current formed by lightning instantly hit the strong powerhouse in the dark seawater, and the overlord slashed twice in a row. "Oh, go to hell." Knowing that he had no way to survive, the man threw out the shell in his hand. Han Fei swallowed. Damn it, this is a real divine weapon. When the man threw out the shell, he had already been slashed by the overlord. "Big, big, big." While shouting, Han Fei said to the old tree via voice transmission, "Can you block other people's perception?" The embroidery needle was placed in front of Han Fei. The demonic energy on it soared into the sky and turned into billowing demonic flames. Clang, the echo shook and instantly spread for dozens of kilometers. Even the people on the battlefield were stunned by the echoes of the explosion. Many people were even bleeding from their ears because of the echo. They were shocked. What on earth happened in the rear? Why is even the echo so terrifying? Rumble! The embroidery needle was blown away. Han Fei was bleeding from his 7 orifices and vomiting blood wildly. His 2 arms hung down and were broken. Even through the embroidery needle, the semi-divine battle suit on his body was dented. In front of Han Fei, 6 octopus claws were blocking. At this moment, the octopus claws were also rotten. Fortunately, limb regeneration didn't require resurrection, so it wouldn't consume little fatty's resurrection chance. However, at some point Han Fei picked up a root in his mouth. Gotcha! The spiritual barrier was broken in the end. The embroidery needle crushed a deep ravine on the ground. In front of him, the guy who had just been resurrected was cut into 4 pieces by Frostmourne and died. Leaning against the leafless tree, Han Fei felt the demon purification pot was shaking. It must be the vine leaf that attracted the demon purification pot. However, Han Fei couldn't care less about this at this moment. He felt that his internal organs were rolling and his blood was surging. Even though he was biting the root of the fateful holy grass and a large amount of vitality was pouring into his body, he still felt as if his bones were falling apart. The bracelet trembled. Boy, you're really fierce. As an advanced hanging fisher, you took the attack of a divine weapon head-on. Han Fei was speechless. Blood was still gurgling from his mouth. I thought I wanted to? First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 803. In front of the leafless tree, the Overlord stabbed Snowmorn into the ground. In his eyes, blue flames flickered, and he stared at the battlefield like a statue. With the Overlord here, the sea demons knew that this matter had failed and there was no possibility of killing the leafless tree. They never expected that Han Fei could even resist the attack of the divine weapons. The divine weapons were exhausted, and their combat power was equal. Knowing that there was no chance of winning, the sea demons could only choose to retreat. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to kill so many heavenly talents. However, almost all the sea demons remembered a name, Yu Fei. Someone roared, "Yu Fei, I will kill you even if I have to go to the ends of the earth. Retreat." The leafless tree responded, "I secretly found the body of a human soul warrior. His soul was crushed by a mental attack. Now, his soul is in chaos and he is completely dead. Is this what you want?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes, don't let others find it." The bracelet trembled and seemed to be a little excited. However, Shu Shan still said, "This is good. However, I have to remind you. You are now in a dilemma. If you go to the human territory in your current state..." Han Fei's heart sank. Now, the sea demons had been exposed. It was impossible for him to return to the 10,000 Demon Valley. But the Scattered Stars Island? Once he went back, there would be a lot of trouble. This would not only prevent him from improving his strength, but he might even be regarded as a spy. No matter how Luo Xiaobai and the others argued, who said that the sea demons were not playing a big game. Han Fei frowned and spoke to Luo Xiaobai and the others who had just finished the battle and were frantically rescuing people. Han Fei asked, "Xiaobai, how did you go back?" Luo Xiaobai's face was pale at this moment. "There is an array map. We can only go back through it," Luo Xiaobai pondered for a few seconds. "Directly send it back to the Scattered Stars Island." Han Fei's face changed, and the leafless tree suddenly said, "If you can wait a little longer, maybe I can open up a channel." Han Fei was immediately refreshed. "Really? How long?" The leafless tree sighed. "It will take at least 3 months, or even half a year." Knowing that it wouldn't take long, Han Fei nodded. "Okay, no problem." At this moment, the red-clothed woman who was called Sanue and the captains walked toward the leafless tree, ignoring their severe injuries. Everyone stopped 100 meters away from Han Fei, looked at the leafless tree, and then looked at Han Fei with mixed feelings. This time, Yu Fei really made a great contribution. Although he did not know why he was exposed. However, in this battle in the demonic forest channel, Han Fei turned the tide alone. This was worthy of respect. The blood on Chao Jiaren's face had been wiped away. Her face had regained its softness. She glanced at the Overlord indifferently. "This is a puppet, right?" Sanue and the others were astonished. Such a powerful puppet? Someone noticed Snowmorn in Overlord's hand. His heart couldn't help but tremble. This sword was probably at least a high-grade divine weapon. Unfortunately, their senses were blocked in this place just now. There was no telling how Han Fei blocked the bombardment of a divine weapon. Leaning against the leafless tree, Han Fei said palely, "Take a guess. Should I tell you or not?" Chao Jiaren's lips curled. "You don't need to tell me. I'm very sure now." Shi Sanyue bowed to Han Fei solemnly to express her gratitude and respect. "For you? Who possessed you?" Han Fei grinned and said, "You don't need to know." Luo Xiaobai walked close and said indifferently, "It's related to the Thug Academy." "You don't need to know." Hearing that it was the Thug Academy, many people had guesses. Their guesses all made sense. Only the lunatics of the Thug Academy would possess a sea demon's body and do something as great as sneaking into the 10,000 Demon Valley. Only the crazy and stubborn heavenly talents of the Thug Academy could have such extraordinary strength. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei casually and nodded her head subtly, hinting that it didn't matter if Han Fei told them. She was here to mediate. Han Fei naturally cooperated with her. "I didn't expect that the Thug Academy would have a few decent heavenly talents after so many years. One of them is from a divine manipulator family." Since Luo Xiaobai joined the Scattered Stars first unit, her identity as a divine manipulator family must have been known. Han Fei pointed it out at this moment, which represented Han Fei's insight and knowledge about the Thousand Star City. Also, the divine manipulator family wasn't known to everybody. Han Fei knew that and tried to dispel other people's suspicions. At this moment he heard a roar, and Lu Renkuang limped close and said, "Ha! You're a senior of the Thug Academy. No wonder I always feel comfortable. Senior uncle, are you going back? I'll treat you to hot pot." Han Fei thought to himself, Lu Renkuang is smart enough to point out the identity of senior uncle, which means that Han Fei is not of the same generation as them. That's a good idea. After all, Old Bai once said that many experts of the Thug Academy had perished, and some were scattered everywhere. Who would know who he was if he pretended to be someone else? Han Fei glanced sideways at Lu Renkuang. "Little fatty, your swallowing technique is not bad. But what's hot pot?" Lu Renkuang rolled his eyes and hurried to cooperate. "Hot pot? Let me tell you, it's amazing." Lu Renkuang rambled on, stopping the messy questions that Shi Sanyue and the others wanted to ask. They were from the same sect and chatting with each other. How could they disturb them? Shi Sanyue nodded at everybody and slowly retreated to the team. They still had to wait for the sea demons to leave the demon forest's secret realm before they left. Seeing that everybody else was gone, Han Fei said to the leafless tree, "Mr. Tree, can you set up a soundproof array?" "Simple." Han Fei frowned and said, "Xiaobai, how are you going to explain this when you return to the Scattered Stars Island?" Luo Xiaobai said casually, "It's not a big problem. How are your wounds?" Lu Renkuang quickly said, "That's right, Han Fei. How did you resist the last bombardment of the divine weapon?" "I vaguely felt that it was horrifying on the battlefield." Han Fei's lips twitched. "I blocked it with a divine weapon." Han Fei didn't explain. If he told Lu Renkuang, the guy would definitely raise a fuss. However, Lu Renkuang glanced at the Overlord and ran to Snowmorn. Then he touched it with his hand. Immediately, he retracted his finger and said, "This sword is awesome. It's so cold that it must be a mid-quality divine weapon, isn't it?" Han Fei scolded him with a smile, "You're so rude. I'm your senior uncle. What's wrong with me having a high-quality divine weapon?" Lu Renkuang rolled his eyes. "Cut it out. This time, it's all thanks to you. Speaking of which, how did you get so many divine weapons? The weird light that killed so many people was a divine weapon too, wasn't it?" Han Fei smiled and said, "I looted it from the sea demons. Don't be shy. I'm not going back with you this time." Lu Renkuang was about to speak when Luo Xiaobai asked, "Then how are you going to leave? You can't go back to the sea demons." Han Fei said, "I have a way to get out. However, I may have to stay here for a few months. After I get out, I'll go back." Lu Renkuang asked, "You have a way? Then do you have a way to get in?" Han Fei said angrily, "Do you think I'm a god? This time, I met you by chance. I've already become a top heavenly talent among the sea demons. If you give me a few years, I may be able to become a high-level sea demon. Lu Renkuang sighed. High-level sea demons. By the way, is it fun to be a sea demon? How do you feel talking at the bottom of the sea? How did you get into the 10,000 Demon Valley? What did you do in the 10,000 Demon Valley? Han Fei said coldly and angrily, "Why do you have so many questions? Go away, I'll tell you when I get back. By the way, after you go back, find a way to get me more level 2 soul crystals and spirit awakening fluid." Lu Renkuang sighed. How can I? Before Lu Renkuang finished speaking, a few sea-swallowing seashells flew out. Han Fei glared at Lu Renkuang. There are a lot of materials and a few semi-divine weapons of the sea demons. Find a way to help me exchange for resources. Lu Renkuang caught the sea-swallowing seashells, glanced at them, and suddenly exclaimed, Han Fei, did you loot the 10,000 Demon Valley? Luo Xiaobai asked curiously, what is it? Speechless, Lu Renkuang handed over the sea-swallowing seashells. Luo Xiaobai glanced at them and was also speechless. She looked at Han Fei in a strange way. She also wondered what Han Fei had done in the 10,000 Demon Valley. There must be 70,000 or 80,000 pieces of materials in them, right? Han Fei chuckled. It's a piece of cake. Luo Xiaobai handed the sea-swallowing seashells to Lu Renkuang and then looked at Han Fei. Last time, I didn't have enough time. Xiaochun, Han Fei shook his head slightly. Shu Shan and the leafless tree were still here. He didn't want to say too much. Han Fei's face darkened. I can't see her for the time being. If one day in the future, we become explorers, we should have a chance. Explorers? Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang looked at each other and their faces became serious. This showed that Xia Xiaochun's disappearance was more serious than they thought. It was so serious that even if they became explorers, they would only have a chance. No longer asking about Xia Xiaochun, Luo Xiaobai suddenly asked, Han Fei, did you ask Senior Leafless to steal a corpse back? Han Fei froze for a moment and then immediately smiled. By the way, Luo Xiaobai's perception of spiritual plants was the strongest among all of them. She couldn't hide this from him. Han Fei nodded. Yes, just help me cover up this matter. Okay. Fei. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 804. It was not until half an hour later that everybody, including Han Fei, recovered. This time, Han Fei fought a divine weapon head-on, and he had a rough idea of his endurance. Little Fatty was seriously wounded this time, but it didn't die. It had a unique limb rebirth skill, and it could recover as long as it had enough time. Although his body was strong, it was still not strong enough to deal with the attack of a divine weapon. He had to become at least a peak-level hanging fisher before he returned to the Scattered Stars Island. Once he returned, he wouldn't be able to come out in a short time. However, since the leafless tree said he could get out, he wasn't in a hurry. He could use this time to change back to his human form. He could improve and make breakthroughs, cultivate and deduce during this period of time. A moment later, the leafless tree said that the sea demons had teleported out and informed the human beings. Han Fei's wounds had basically been healed. He got up and walked to the crowd with Luo Xiaobai and the others. Han Fei said to Shi Sanyue, who seemed to be the most authoritative person, "Little girl, I've made a great contribution to mankind this time, haven't I?" Shi Sanyue nodded. Of course. I'll report it to Lord Shueishenqi in person after we return to the Scattered Stars Island. Han Fei bared his teeth and nodded. Although I've made a great contribution, I can't claim the reward. I'll give the credit to Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang. How does that sound? Shi Sanyue's face stiffened. After a moment of silence, she said, I can't make the decision, but I'll try my best. However, are you not going back with us, Senior? Han Fei waved his hand and said, You can go back. I have my ways to get out. Besides, the leafless tree is heavily wounded, and the 10,000-year tree demon may attack it at any time. I need to watch over it for a while. Everybody was stunned, but then they realized that the 10,000-year tree demon was not easy to deal with. Shi Sanyue nodded. Thank you, Senior. Let's go back to the island. After saying that, Sanue pulled open a formation map, and a mysterious formation rose into the sky. Soon, a pitch-black gate appeared in the void. Han Fei glanced at Lu Renkuang and suddenly kicked him. Go back and focus on your cultivation. Don't just eat. You've been nagging me about food for a long time, but I can't eat any of it. I'm so hungry. Lu Renkuang was speechless. Are you having fun being a senior uncle? Are you having fun? Many people secretly laughed, only feeling that this little fishman was very interesting. After a while, when everyone had left, with a thought, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and little gold appeared and exchanged another ultra-quality demonic stone for the overlord. Then he said, "Protect me. I'm going to transform." Scattered Stars Island, Central City. Xue Shenxi listened to Sanue's report with his back turned. All the captains were waiting for Xue Shenxi's reply. After the report, Xue Shenxi frowned and glanced at Luo Xiaobai. An expert from the Thug Academy possessed an azure sea blue demon? Luo Xiaobai nodded. Yes, it involves some secrets of the Thug Academy, so I'm very sure. Xue Shenxi frowned slightly. If he used to be an expert from the Thug Academy, why did he suddenly join the sea demons after so many years? Xue Shenxi pondered for a moment and said, the divine weapon he used should be the bone transformation spiritual lamp. Chao Jiaran, did you say that the puppet killed 5 people in 5 steps? Chao Jiaran nodded. That's right. Before the sword was moved, 5 half-mermaid heavenly talents in semi-divine battle suits were annihilated. They didn't even have the time to use the immortal seal. However, this method seems to be limited, or he could have killed all the sea demons on his own. Xue Shenxi hummed and wondered if it was a coincidence or intentional that an expert from the Thug Academy showed up at this moment. He didn't doubt that the people from the Thug Academy would help human beings. This was what everyone should do for the big picture. He was just caught in some complicated conjectures. After a moment, Xue Shenxi said unhurriedly, give enough compensation to the heavenly talents who died this time, including their families, villages, and towns. Also, since someone from the Thug Academy helped them, Luo Xiaobai and Lu Renkuang will each be rewarded with 5 million points of credit and a heaven-level high-quality art. On the Scattered Stars Island, the sea demons had retreated and human beings could take a rest. More importantly, the various systems were calculating the casualties. On the edge of a cliff somewhere on the west coast, Lu Renkuang looked at Tangu, who was thin and gloomy but emitting a murderous aura, and said casually, Han Fei is not dead. He asked me to tell you. Air waves shook, and Tangu looked at Lu Renkuang in shock, his eyes wide open, as if waiting for Lu Renkuang to confirm it again. Lu Renkuang said, if everything goes well, he will return to the Scattered Stars Island in half a year at most. By the way, he asked you to go to the Twisted Jungle. A smile suddenly appeared on Tang Ji's solemn face, but his fists were clenched, and his slightly trembling movements revealed his excitement at this moment. The Twisted Jungle. Old Jiang, who was sitting at the dinner table, spat out a mouthful of liquor. What did you say? Tang Ji's eyes regained their luster. Senior, Han Fei is not dead. He may return in half a year. Old Jiang was stunned for a long time before he said slowly, his life tablet is broken, but he's not dead? This boy. Jiang Qin glanced at Tangu and said casually, since you're here, stay for dinner. Old Jiang snorted. That boy knows that I'm afraid of trouble, but he still sent me such a living person. Forget it, Tangu, since you're here, stay here for a few days. I'll test you. If you can't do it, you'd better get out of here as soon as possible. Huh? Tangu was dumbfounded and didn't understand what she meant. Jiang Qin said, if Han Fei just wanted us to know the news, he could have asked anyone from the Thug Academy to send a message. He wouldn't have asked Lu Renkuang to tell you and then you to tell us. Tangu opened his mouth, smiled bitterly, and didn't speak. So that was it. In the passage of the demon forest, in front of Han Fei, a soul warrior was jumping up and down and practicing a set of fist techniques. Han Fei said gloomily, okay, you've done it 8 times. Ha, it's been too long. I've been in the state of a soul. It feels good to suddenly have a body. Except that I'm a little weak and my aptitude is a little weak. It's not a big problem. Han Fei said grumpily, Brother, since he can enter this demonic forest, he deserves to be called a heavenly talent. What's wrong with him? Shu Shan chuckled. That's because you don't know my previous talent. I still think your body is really good, but your spiritual heritage seems to be a little low. It's not worthy of the talent you've shown at all. Han Fei returned to his human form. Sure enough, the human form was more comfortable. There was no harm without comparison. It was the first time in many years that Shu Shan could have a human body, so he couldn't contain his excitement. On the contrary, Han Fei didn't feel so excited. Instead, he felt a sense of urgency. It was rare for him to have a quiet rest for a period of time, so he couldn't afford to waste it. Han Fei looked at the leafless tree. Mr. Tree, you have a total of 6 branches, and now 3 have been destroyed. Are you going to wait for all the branches to grow again? A smile appeared on the old face of the leafless tree. Of course not. If I want them to grow again, I'm afraid it will take 30 years. Han Fei was speechless. 30 years? Just 3 branches? The leafless tree shrugged. My main injury is not from the collapse of the branches, but from the damage to the spiritual heritage. Although it has been remedied, it's still not enough. Han Fei said indifferently, Anyway, as long as I can get out of here. Old Shu, are you going to the Scattered Stars Island? Shu Shan shook his head. Of course not. This is not our era anymore. If I go to the Scattered Stars Island, I won't help those juniors. In the next few months, I'll stay here to recover my strength and consolidate my combat skills. Then, after we go out, let's go our separate ways. Han Fei was stunned for a moment. Go our separate ways? I'm not bragging, old Shu, but your current body is only at the level of a peak-level hanging fisher. Even if you go out, how far can you go? Besides, let me tell you, the sea around the Scattered Stars Island is now the territory of sea demons. Are you sure you want to go alone? A bright smile appeared on Shu Shan's face. Puma, I'm Shu Shan. Can these ordinary half-mermaid sea demons find me? Han Fei curled his lips. Anyway, this body is yours now. You can do whatever you want. Shu Shan chose a place to stabilize himself. With a swish, he slipped to the leafless tree and chuckled. Mr. Tree, is the sap you mentioned ready? At the fracture of the leafless tree, a mass of light green liquid emerged and then gathered. After a while, a mass of branches weighing about 2 kilograms was condensed. The leafless tree seemed to have become even older. It said, It's best to take it when you're cultivating your physique. Han Fei's eyes flickered and his face gradually became solemn. The data in his eyes shocked him. Name Immeasurable Sap Introduction. The magical sap of the leafless tree contains enormous energy. It can temper bones, flesh, muscles, and bones, and also has the mysterious power to moisten the soul. Leveled heaven quality, high quality, spiritual energy greater than 105,987 points. Effect, it can temper bones, flesh, muscles, and bones if eaten directly. It's very effective for hidden fishers, less effective for law enforcers, and ineffective for explorers. Note, use it with caution for hanging fishers. So chapter? Asking for votes. Today is still the 3rd chapter. I haven't got the monthly votes yet. Also, I've definitely updated a lot, but the number of words is not the number of chapters. I'm not an emotionless writing machine. Tomorrow is the 4th chapter. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 805. Looking at the immeasurable sap in front of him, Han Fei guessed something. If the leafless tree was outside, its strength would be terrifying. After all, this was something useful to law enforcers, and there was a reminder for hanging fishers to use it with caution. Immediately, Han Fei said to the leafless tree, Mr. Tree, you can recover by yourself now. I'm going to cultivate first. After a while, within the forest of kelp, Han Fei checked his information. Owner Han Fei's level greater than 48, high-level hanging fisher, spiritual energy, 1982561. 15452, mind power, 2, 192/2, 192 cents. 20,001 meters, Spiritual Heritage, LV5, High Grade, Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Spirit Swallowing Fish, Level 43, Main Art, Void Breaking Technique, Level 4 of Void Fishing, Demon Level, Divine Quality. My perception has broken through. Han Fei was stunned for a moment. This was good news. He didn't even need to visualize the God-scaring painting to make a breakthrough. Han Fei guessed the reason. It was mainly because he absorbed a lot of ownerless souls in the ancient 72-floor demon realm, and when he was in the demonic forest channel, he used the soul-splitting technique many times. It might be because of this that he completely refined these souls, so his perception had a breakthrough. Han Fei glanced at Forge the Universe. There were 36 Level 2 soul crystals left, which should be enough. Anyway, refining soul crystals was very fast. He'd better refine the soul crystals before he started cultivating. He held the soul crystal in his hand and began to visualize the God-scaring painting. Ka. One by one, the soul crystals were refined. After refining 16 soul crystals in a row, he was stuck at the 50th piece of the God-scaring painting. Continue. Han Fei seemed to have been prepared. He refined 10 Level 2 soul crystals in a row and suddenly remembered the 51st small piece of the God-scaring painting. The demand for rank 2 soul crystals has increased? Previously there were 3 rank 2 soul crystals, but now there were 10? Han Fei spread out his senses, only to find that his perception had changed to 23,001 meters. He couldn't help but frown. Don't tell me there's no change in the growth of perception? Seeing that the soul crystals could still be refined, but there were only 11 soul crystals left, Han Fei immediately refined them all in one breath. After a while, 24,001 meters, and he could still continue to break through? Moreover, every time I memorize a piece of the God-scaring painting, my perception range increases to 1,000 meters? Han Fei smiled bitterly. The most painful thing was that he could still make a breakthrough, but his soul crystal was gone. Without soul crystals, the only way to improve the range of perception was to visualize the God-scaring painting or make a breakthrough. Unfortunately, visualizing the God-scaring painting was too time-consuming. Han Fei finally had a few months of free time. How could he find time to visualize it? His eyes flickered, and he took out about 20 drops of immeasurable sap. After thinking for a moment, he stuffed half of it into his mouth. Instantly, Han Fei felt his body heating up. Every drop of immeasurable sap that entered his body started to explode. Waves of energy surged into his flesh and meridians. Han Fei's eyes widened. This feeling was no less than that of the candle dragon blood. Not only did the immeasurable tree sap contain a tremendous amount of energy, it also seemed to be gushing toward his 32 acupoints. Han Fei was shocked. Ever since he practiced the 108 desolate god body, he only had 32 acupoints, and he hadn't practiced them since. At that time, he only considered using the 108 desolate god body to cover the indestructible body that he practiced, so he never practiced it on purpose. But at this moment, he found that the desolate god body seemed to be changing. He still remembered the purpose of the desolate god body, which was to practice the only major acupoint. Only when the major acupoints were united could it be considered a body with only one leaky acupoint. Immediately, Han Fei practiced the desolate god body, which he hadn't practiced for a long time. His body made 108 strange postures underwater. No, 10 drops are not enough. 20 drops, 30 drops, time went by, and 3 months passed in the blink of an eye. In the past 3 months, Shu Shan seemed to have disappeared and hadn't shown up yet. However, Han Fei was sitting cross-legged on the ground at this moment. The seawater nearby seemed to be twisted. 8 vortexes were rotating, and a tremendous amount of spiritual energy was drilling into Han Fei's body. It took Han Fei 3 months to set up a spirit gathering array on the ground. With the scouring of spiritual energy and energy, he had practiced from the previous 3 acupoints to the current 8 major acupoints, which was a terrifying speed. Break! Kacha! Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. The surrounding spiritual energy was rolling in, and a large amount of spiritual spring in his body turned into spiritual energy and was absorbed into his body. After a while, Han Fei suddenly stood up and spat out a long jet of water. That jet of water actually shattered a blade of grass. I made a breakthrough. I thought I would have to wait until I deduced the 5th level of the void fishing art. My strength and physique have been increased by 30%. It's indeed a heaven-level, divine quality body refining art. If I can unite the major acupoints, it will be at least 20% stronger. Owner Han Fate's level greater than 49, peak level hanging fisher, spiritual energy 1982561-17512, spiritual power 2, 308/2, 308, perception range greater than 24,001 meters, spiritual heritage level 5, high quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 43, main art, void breaking technique, level 4 of void fishing, demon level, divine quality. Han Fei couldn't help but be slightly surprised. He had really been cultivating hard in the past 3 months, and the effect was unexpectedly good. He even made a breakthrough in advance. Also, after the breakthrough, Han Fei found that the upper limit of his spiritual energy had increased a lot, to about 2,000 points, which was better than any previous breakthrough. Is it because I've been through too many battles? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, Mr. Tree, what's the time? Can we go out now? The big face of the leafless tree appeared. Han Fei didn't know if it was his illusion, but although it was still old, it seemed to be a little bit better. The leafless tree said, wait for me for another 3 days. I'll send you out in 3 days. Han Fei nodded. Even if the leafless tree wanted to send him out now, he would probably ask him to postpone it for a few days. Before going out, he had 2 things to do. The first thing was to deduce the majestic mystic spell. At present, the majestic mystic spell was only demon level, divine quality, and he hadn't deduced it before because Han Fei felt that the 5-fold increase was almost enough. But now, this trip to the demon forest made him realize that his opponents were getting stronger, and he had to be stronger too. Deduce. In Forge the Universe. A moment later, information popped up in his eyes. Overlord's technique, heaven level, mid-quality. Note, a secret technique of food created by watching the Overlord Black Tortoise swallow the sea. It summons the Overlord Black Tortoise with enormous energy as a sacrifice. In a short period of time, its combat power will be multiplied according to the level of the caster. Current improvement, 8 times drawback. The stronger the improvement, the more energy it will consume. Once the energy is consumed too much, the body's potential will be overdrawn. Deduced art, unknown deduction cost, 0/30,000,000. The Overlord's technique that cost 10 million to deduce. Han Fei smiled. This was the real good stuff. With an increase of 8 times of strength, Han Fei was confident that even the sea god arrives might not be stronger than the Overlord's technique. However, as the Overlord's technique was activated, more and more energy was consumed. During this time, the immeasurable sap that the leafless tree gave him had been used up. Thinking that the old tree's strength had been greatly reduced and it was seriously damaged, Han Fei didn't ask for more from it. At this moment, while Shu Shan was cultivating somewhere, Han Fei came to the leafless tree. Mr. Tree, tell me more about that little vine. Why is it here? On the tree, the old face appeared. When this secret realm opened last time, it was also a war between humans and sea demons, and a human powerhouse came to help me with this thing. However, this thing occupied the core position of the earth veins as soon as it came, and now it has been connected to the earth veins. If you want to extract it now, the entire demon forest may collapse. When the secret realm is broken, the consequences will be unpredictable. Han Fei's eyes flickered. Then why did you say that the opportunity hasn't come yet? The leafless tree said gloomily, I feel that it is still full. Not full. Han Fei looked at the leafless tree in astonishment. You mean that little vine came here to eat? The tree face raised his eyebrows and said, yes. It eats spiritual energy and energy. I don't even know whether it is good or bad. Because of this, I can't determine the purpose of human beings. I don't know whether they are here to help me or to extract this little vine by force. Han Fei's eyes flickered and he was lost in thought. Who brought this vine in? The leafless tree pondered for a long time and said, an incarnation named Han Guanshu, but it was he who saved me last time. Han Fei's face changed, and his heart skipped a beat. Han Guanshu again? At that moment, Han Fei felt very uncomfortable. According to his speculation, if Han Guanshu was related to him, no, he was 100% related to him, because there was also a little vine at the bottom of the steps into the sea. He had already taken that one, and now this one was the second one. Han Fei said leisurely, Mr. Tree, when do you think it will be full? The leafless tree replied, maybe. It will take another 5 or 6 years, or 7 or 8 years, or 10 years. I'm not sure. It depends on it. Han Fei was speechless. So I came early? Why did Han Guanshu put this little vine in the town? Was it for him? Did he know that he would get the demon purification pot? Han Fei's head was in a mess. He didn't know anything except that it must be related to a big secret. He felt that he was being manipulated. He didn't feel very good, which made Han Fei unhappy. Han Fei closed his eyes and tried to make the demon purification pot move. However, the demon purification pot didn't shake anymore except for the violent tremors a while ago. Did the demon purification pot know that the little vine was not full? 3 days passed. Han Fei was sitting cross-legged in front of the leafless tree. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and saw a sword flying at him at a terrifying speed. Han Fei's pupils constricted. What a fast speed! What a strong sword intent! Where is Master Shu? When the sword was 100 meters away from Han Fei, it suddenly stopped and turned into a person. It was none other than Shu Shan. Han Fei asked in shock, have you become a sword? Shu Shan smiled. I am a sword cultivator. Isn't it basic for me to become one with my sword? Han Fei was speechless. Why haven't I seen anyone else do such a basic thing? Gotcha. Before Han Fei and Shu Shan communicated too much, Han Fei saw another branch of the leafless tree break. Han Fei asked in shock, Mr. Tree, what are you doing? The leafless tree said, take my branch. Next time, as long as you break the branch within 100,000 kilometers of the entrance, you can come in. Shu Shan said lazily, I won't come. I'm going to take a look at the current world. Han Fei looked at the leafless tree. Then how do I know when I will come? The old voice of the leafless tree sounded, when this branch grows its first leaf, you can come at any time. Then, a dark hole lit up 100 meters high in the sky, and the leafless tree said leisurely, I will send you to 100,000 kilometers away from the entrance of the sea demons. Shu Shan went to the hole with a smile. Enough, the new world, the infinite ocean, here I come. Han Fei took a deep look at the leafless tree and left without looking back. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 806. In the sky above the blue ocean, a circular hole suddenly appeared. 2 figures, one in front and one behind, came out in a line. The moment they appeared in the air, a red fishing boat appeared in the sky. On the fishing boat, Han Fei took a deep breath. I'm finally out. How comfortable! Shu Shan exclaimed in surprise, this flying boat of yours? Han Fei smiled and said, sort of. With the floating stone, you can control the flying boat, which is extremely fast. Shu Shan nodded. Give me one. Han Fei thought that this old man had taught him how to enter the Soul Sea. It was not a big deal to give him a fishing boat. However, he only had one wind god boat now. But there were still a few good ones in his world of demon refinement. Han Fei didn't refuse and immediately threw a sea-swallowing seashell to him. Master Shu, are you really not going to the human world? Shu Shan looked up at the sky and said leisurely, after being reborn, I don't want to participate in this kind of war between humans and sea demons anymore. It suddenly occurred to me that I haven't had a good look at this world yet. The infinite ocean is said to be magnificent and dangerous. I have to go and have a look. Receiving the sea-swallowing seashell, Shu Shan suddenly chuckled. Boy, you're not bad. Take good care of the universe ring. Han Fei was stunned for a moment and then remembered that although this old man took the universe bracelet, he still gave him a universe ring. Han Fei flipped his hand and a ring appeared. He couldn't help but ask, is it like a sea-swallowing seashell? Shu Shan said in disdain, how can a sea-swallowing seashell compare to a universe ring? Shu Shan reached out and touched the universe ring. With a clang, the universe ring turned into a long sword in Han Fei's hand. Shu Shan said lazily, the universe ring, also known as the universe sword, is a real ultra-quality divine weapon. Since you saved me, I'll give it to you. It contains a cosmos sword art, and I'll give it to you as well. After you recognize it as its master, you can make it invisible and very difficult for anyone to discover it. However, I advise you not to recognize it as its master too soon. It's best to wait until you become a hidden fisher before using it. Otherwise, it can suck up all the blood in your body and kill you. Han Fei was speechless for a moment. Oh my god, this is really good stuff. Han Fei recalled how he made Snowmorn acknowledge him as its master and shuddered. If it weren't for the fact that he had a huge reserve of spirit chi and a large number of spirit fruits, he would have long been sucked to death. Han Fei couldn't help but grope. Okay, I'll keep it. Are you going to the Endless Sea realm now? Shu Shan waved his hand, and the fishing boat appeared. He slightly controlled it and it shook. The world is so big, you can go anywhere. Once I regain my strength, I'll go to the Boundless Sea domain to take a look. I didn't go there in my previous life, but I'll go in this one. Anyway, I have to go there once. I'm leaving. I'll never see you again. Looking at Shu Shan's receding figure with mixed feelings, Han Fei felt that the old man was unusually free and easy. Boundless Sea realm? Hee hee, in the future, I will also go there. Han Fei immediately calmed down. This place was too close to the Myriad Demon Valley. They often encountered sea monsters. Immediately, the fishing boat took off. He didn't rush all the way until he reached an altitude of more than 5,000 meters. Woo! After only flying for an hour, Han Fei heard a distant and lonely sound coming from above the clouds. Huh, a cloud whale? Han Fei immediately flew in the direction of the sound. After about 10 minutes, Han Fei saw a cloud whale's head poking out of the clouds above the clouds. Han Fei looked at the cloud whale. The cloud whale looked at Han Fei. Woo! As if recognizing Han Fei, the cloud whale's voice seemed much happier. It leaned sideways, pressed its belly against Han Fei's fishing boat, and flew past. Then it flew back, and then put its huge head next to Han Fei's fishing boat. It blinked its big eyes twice, and waves of joy spurted out of its head. Han Fei laughed. Big guy, we meet again. How can I not give you a gift? Then Han Fei carried a big squid more than 30 meters long and threw it at the cloud whale. Woo! The cloud whale opened its mouth wide and rolled in the clouds. Then, it opened its mouth wide and swallowed the squid in one gulp. Watching the huge squid being swallowed by the cloud whale, Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. It was really a big eater. Then Han Fei glanced at the cloud whale. How about it? Do you still want to eat it? The cloud whale moved around and turned its body, as if saying, I want more. Han Fei took out another purple prawn 17 or 18 meters long and threw it at it. This time, the cloud whale simply waited with its mouth wide open. Seeing the prawn fall into its mouth, it chewed it up. Hearing cracking sounds, Han Fei knew that he couldn't feed it anymore. The cloud whale's level was not high, and he was afraid that it wouldn't be able to digest it if he kept feeding it. Suddenly, Han Fei thought of something. This big guy ran around and flew around every day. Did it know a safe place? Immediately, Han Fei asked, Big guy, do you know a place where there are no humans or sea monsters? Can you take me to a safer place? Woo! The cloud whale let out a cry and suddenly sank. In the next moment, Han Fei found that his fishing boat had landed on the back of the cloud whale. So, Han Fei simply put away the fishing boat and sat on the back of the cloud whale. He opened his hands and let the wind howl and the clouds blow his face. This feeling was really comfortable. Han Fei couldn't help but say, Big guy, actually, you're living quite a comfortable life. Woo, the cloud whale flew slower than the fishing boat, but it was very rhythmic, which made people feel that it was a blessing to nature. About 6 hours later, the cloud whale fell down with a whimper. This was a sea area in the middle of nowhere. So far, Han Fei hadn't seen a single human passing by, nor had he seen a sea monster. He didn't know where he had been taken. Not only was there no human or sea monster, but Han Fei even sensed that there were not many marine creatures underwater. After a while, the cloud whale fell 1,000 meters high. Han Fei asked, "Big guy, is this the place?" Wu Han Fei grinned. "It seems so." He jumped off the back of the cloud whale and shouted back, "Don't come down. It's dangerous down there. Stay in the sky." Wu, the cloud whale, flicked its tail, rose straight up, and gradually disappeared into the sea of clouds. Plop. Han Fei smashed into the water and summoned Little Black and Little White. Han Fei asked, "Daughter, can you smell a sea monster?" Little White was stunned for a while, turned around, and then turned to Han Fei, his big eyes flickering. "It seems not." "Daughter, where are the humans? Do you feel any human passing by?" The result was still the same. Han Fei was a little speechless. God knew where the cloud whale had taken him. Han Fei asked, "Do you smell where Luo Xiaobai is?" This time, Little White seemed to be a little uncertain as he chose a direction. Phew! Han Fei breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that Little White still had a little intuition. This wavering and hesitant feeling meant that Little White was not sure, but it felt right. So, Han Fei was relieved. It was fine as long as he could determine the direction. He circled around again and sensed for a while. If there was no special creature, he would deduce it directly. 1 hour later, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Gold, Little Fatty, Little Black, and Little White guarded the 4 directions. Little Fatty's injuries had already been healed during the 3 long months of training. But as soon as it came out, it said to Han Fei, "You want to fight me again?" Han Fei scolded with a smile, "I fed you to level 40. What else do you want? When I have a chance, I'll find an undersea chimney and dig out some spirit awakening fluid for you." Paying no more attention to them, Han Fei sat up solemnly. Phew! Han Fei took a long breath. It was time to start a new round of lightning baptism. After venting his anger, he took out a big wok and cooked the only trivariant golden ginseng in his hand. After a while, Han Fei felt that the power in his body was about to explode. The trivariant golden ginseng had only eaten about 1/3. With a thought, the 6-tailed ginseng, the fateful holy grass, the candle dragon blood, a large number of spiritual fruits obtained from the demonic forest, and a large number of spiritual fruits purchased from the 10,000 Demon Valley were all gathered somewhere in Forge the Universe. Phew! Deduce! In Forge the Universe, a massive amount of spiritual springs suddenly boiled, and the spiritual energy in the whole Forge the Universe was more than 100 times denser than outside. Boom! The originally blue sky was gradually filled with thunder, and clouds were gathering in all directions. On the sea, the waves were surging and the wind was blowing. Han Fei sat down, activated the indestructible body, and the spiritual energy in his body had begun to burn. After a while, the spiritual energy in all directions gradually gathered. Gradually, some living creatures appeared in the barren land that the cloud whale had brought. However, slowly, these creatures began to retreat again. What were they afraid of? Anyway, they didn't dare to approach. When the light spots flickered in the clouds, a downpour suddenly fell. Boom! A thick bolt of lightning struck Han Fei in the blink of an eye. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 807. In this remote corner of the sea, the surface of the sea with a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers was shrouded in black clouds and heavy rain. In the clouds, there seemed to be a lightning dragon, rolling back and forth. The howling wind piled up huge waves hundreds of meters high, roaring and shaking here. Above the sea, when the first dazzling orange-red lightning appeared and fell, it gradually turned white. Puff! In a flash, everything on Han Fei's body was instantly turned into powder, Even his hair and eyebrows disappeared without a trace, and faint cracks appeared on his skin. And Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. In the blood, there was lightning flashing, which made Han Fei's scalp go numb. The power of this blow greatly promoted the cultivation of the indestructible body art. The vitality in Han Fei's body was surging out crazily. The energy that he had just swallowed turned into the primer for the cultivation of the indestructible body art at an incredible speed, and nearly half of it was consumed in an instant. Han Fei took a deep breath, and the six-tailed ginseng stuffed in his mouth, which hadn't been chewed yet, was shattered when the lightning fell. A massive amount of energy was crazily surging into Han Fei's body. Boom! Crack! Another bolt of lightning fell. A large number of cracks appeared on the surface of Han Fei's body. However, in the midst of the scorching, the lightning seriously injured Han Fei again. This time, the lightning in Han Fei's body surged. He could even feel that there was lightning crisscrossing and spreading in his blood. However, to Han Fei's surprise, both the seed and the demonic essence in his dantian were intact. They seemed to be crazily absorbing the power that was being emitted from the lightning. Even the heaven spirit detoxifying insect shrank into a ball and was safe and sound under the protection of the seed and the demonic essence. There was even a touch of blue that sank into its body. Han Fei could still bear it at this moment. Seeing that the heaven spirit detoxifying insect was fine, he was ready to start taking the spiritual fruits obtained in the demon forest after the next 3 or 5 lightning strikes. Compared with the spiritual fruits purchased in the 10,000 Demon Valley, the effect of the spiritual fruits obtained in the demon forest was at least 2 times, or even close to 3 times. This allowed Han Fei to keep the fateful holy grass until the end as much as possible. Boom, boom, boom. Perhaps it was because the divine might of heaven's descent was too obvious. When dozens of bolts of lightning from the 9 heavens struck down, the surging waves caused a shockwave. Both the Scattered Stars Island and the 10,000 Demon Valley sensed the anomaly in the ocean almost at the same time. The area covered by the downpour had an indirect effect, causing a drizzle to fall on the Scattered Stars Island and the 10,000 Demon Valley. Inside the Scattered Stars Island's transverse mountain, someone looked at the sky. Something's wrong. This isn't an ocean storm, is it? Someone said doubtfully, it's more like a change in the world. However, it seems to be a bit far from the Scattered Stars Island, at least 300,000 kilometers away. At this moment, Xue Shenqi was also standing in front of the window of the palace, frowning slightly as he looked at the sky. The magical mirror in his hand reflected a large area of terrifying clouds and thunder. You can't see? What had happened in that area? Even the sky-hanging mirror can't see through it? Xue Shenqi said lightly, guards. Outside the door, a few high-level experts immediately came in and bowed their heads after Xue Shenqi got up. General. Xue Shenqi said, inform General Mo Qi to lead 2 inspectors and 3 adjudicators to this place. Don't take action if you encounter any abnormalities. Yes, General. In the 10,000 Demon Valley, Blue Feather stood on the middle head of a 3-headed giant shark. Behind him, 6 of the 8 wings of Blue Feather were here. After a long time, Blue Feather said lightly, Qian Yining the Hailf Changfeng, you 2 go and take a look. Yes, Lord Feather. Suddenly, the expert called Qian Yining hesitated and said, Lord Feather, Qixue Huan is better at this kind of thing. Why don't you let him out? Blue Feather remembered that 3 months ago, Yu Fei ruined the whole plan. He was furious and directly locked Qixue Huan up. Yuji was stripped of her position as a heavenly talent and thrown into the Blood Sea Valley. Blue Feather snorted. I said to let him stay in the earth fire torture for half a year, so he will. Qian Yining nodded slightly and disappeared from the sea with Hailf Changfeng. Han Fei's body had been burnt to a crisp. The next moment his blood came out, it froze. It was covered in cracks, like a piece of burnt porcelain. I can't hold on any longer. This is only the 30-second lightning bolt. Damn it, I hope the fateful holy grass can take it. Before the next lightning bolt fell, the fateful holy grass was stuffed into Han Fei's mouth with a soft glow. All of a sudden, the terrifying cracks on Han Fei's body disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. The horrifying vitality made Han Fei heave a sigh of relief. High-grade goods were indeed high-grade goods. They were much stronger than ordinary spiritual fruits. Boom. An hour later, the number of lightning bolts had been greatly reduced. The power of the fateful holy grass had been completely consumed. And Han Fei's body was already full of cracks again. He drank more than half of the candle dragon blood. He couldn't help but sigh. He had underestimated the power of deduction. If he really went to sea, he would find a way to deduce. Even if he was still alive, he would probably be badly mutilated. Sure enough, opportunities were for those who were prepared. If it weren't for the fateful holy grass and the 108 desolate god body, the consequences would have been even more serious. At this time, Han Fei had been wrapped in spiritual energy. He knew he had made it. The vitality stimulated by the indestructible body was repairing his body. Most of the thunderclouds in the sky had dissipated, and they would completely disappear in another 100 minutes. This time, to Han Fei's surprise, those sea creatures who tried to come didn't dare to approach within 100 kilometers of him after the first lightning bolt fell. Likewise, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp didn't dare to approach him either. Suddenly, Han Fei had a strange feeling. The demon purification pot shook, and there seemed to be a warning in his heart. Danger is coming. Little black, nine-tailed mantis shrimp, come back. At the moment when Little Black and the nine-tailed mantis shrimp entered his body, Han Fei found a touch of perception sweeping past. In the next second, Han Fei disappeared. After a moment, a human powerhouse rushed to the scene immediately. He frowned and looked at the dissipating thunderclouds in the sky, his eyes flickering. Was that a person just now? He was 100% sure that it was the same person. However, that person didn't give him the feeling that he was very strong. He was probably only a hidden fisher or even just a beginner. However, the figure of that person disappeared in an instant, which made him have an illusion again. Could it be that the catastrophe heavily injured him and made him at the bottom of his strength? Was that a lightning tribulation just now? After a moment, a few more figures appeared. General Mochi, have you found anything? The two law enforcers glanced around. One of them casually grabbed, and a large piece of jiao whose flesh and blood was caught in his hand. He sniffed and said in surprise, "A human being? Is someone undergoing a tribulation here?" Hearing that someone was undergoing a tribulation here, the brigadier general couldn't help but gasp and say, "Has someone become an explorer?" Mochi breathed a sigh of relief and said, "In any case, it's a human being, not a sea demon. Otherwise, if another guy like Blue Feather appeared, the pressure on the Scattered Stars Island would only be greater." Everyone sighed for a while, full of surprise. However, they were also full of curiosity. On the other side, an inspector said, "But the lightning tribulation of a law enforcer when he becomes an explorer shouldn't be so shocking, right? Isn't it a bit too loud?" Mochi couldn't help but laugh. Some people are talented, and so are the lightning tribulations. As long as that person doesn't harm human beings, that's good enough. Right when they were about to report, Mochi suddenly extended his hand and scooped up a large amount of flesh and blood from the seawater. In the next second, Mochi sneered. "Since you're here, come out and meet me." Hearing Mochi's words, everyone was on the alert. Two water men suddenly emerged from the surface of the sea. Seeing them, the two inspectors and the three brigadier generals immediately fused with their spiritual beasts and condensed their weapons, ready for battle. Mochi narrowed his eyes and glanced at the two of them. "Jianyaning, hail of Changfeng? I really didn't expect that the first and third powerhouses of the 8 wings of Blue Feather would come together during this tribulation." "A tribulation?" Jianyaning and Hail of Changfeng secretly gasped. Did human beings have one more explorer? They sensed the seawater. Although a lot of jiao whose flesh and blood had been scooped up by Mochi, some of it was still left at the bottom of the sea. In the next second, the two of them looked at each other and suddenly roared, "Run!" Seeing them flee, Mochi narrowed his eyes and sneered. "You still know how to run? If that expert is really here, Do you think you can run away? The 8 wings of Blue Feather were only equivalent to the level of a law enforcer. Therefore, a super expert in the level of an explorer was a terrifying enemy for them. They could even guess that the expert had only just passed the lightning tribulation and hadn't recovered from his wounds yet. Otherwise, if the expert was given more time, they probably wouldn't have been able to run away. Emochi looked into the distance for a while and said casually, "Let's leave this matter alone. That expert doesn't want us to recognize him. Let's just respect his wish and go back to report." The third update, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 808. Han Fei didn't dare to come out immediately. Anything that could alert the demon purification pot of danger was definitely not something that he could deal with. Besides, he had just been hit by lightning and was still heavily wounded. It would take him at least a day to recover. Besides, Han Fei didn't really care whether he went out or not. He could improve his spiritual heritage and consolidate his strength. His information popped up in his head. Owner Han Fei, level greater than 49, peak level hanging fisher, spiritual energy 492156218862, spiritual power 1502/2, 432, perception range greater than 24,001 meters, spiritual heritage level 6, low quality spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, level 43, main art, divine manipulation technique, level 5 of void fishing, heaven level, divine quality. The breakthrough was much better than Han Fei expected. The upper limit of his spiritual energy had been increased by 1,000 points. How long had it been? Compared with 3 months ago, his upper limit of spiritual energy had been increased by more than 3,000 points, which represented a significant improvement in his physique and comprehensive strength. His spiritual power hadn't increased much, but it was enough. It wasn't the same as a hidden fisher's breakthrough. It was impossible to soar after a minor breakthrough. His spiritual heritage had finally become level 6, low quality, which was still 1 level away from level 7 that he expected. However, he immediately had a plan. The heritage dredging fruit was still with him, and he could improve his spiritual heritage by consuming spiritual energy. It wouldn't take long for him to break into level 7. As for the art, it had been upgraded from demon level, divine quality to heaven level, divine quality. It wasn't a big surprise to Han Fei. However, why did the divine manipulation technique sound like the ability of the divine manipulator from Luo Xiaobai's family? Han Fei read it and found that the art this time included the making of fishing rods. A fishing line? According to the divine manipulation technique, a descendant of a dragon could only make the void lines with the void lines. Only with the void lines could one practice the divine manipulation technique. This technique can actually control living beings unknowingly, and it can be controlled on multiple lines? Han Fei mumbled. Is the fishing rod finally useful? However, Han Fei didn't study it immediately. His top priority was neither to improve his spiritual heritage nor to consolidate his cultivation, nor to practice the art. A weird picture popped up in Han Fei's mind. It was the Soul Sea mystic art. He wanted to take this opportunity to enter the Soul Sea and improve Little Black and Little White's strength. Xu Shan had said that after every advancement or unusual breakthrough, there was a certain chance of entering the Soul Sea. Lying flat on the ground, Han Fei's consciousness became more and more blurred. The weird array of the Soul Sea seemed to be working. In a daze, Han Fei suddenly shivered and then found that he was attached to Little White, because he saw that Little Black was playing around. With a thought, Han Fei switched from Little White to Little Black, and a bloodthirsty impulse immediately rose in him. After listening to Xu Shan's explanation, he said that once one ate too many primitive spiritual beasts in the Soul Sea, the remaining soul power would become a terrifying existence. Last time, he forced Little Black and the others to level up by 3 levels. This time, should he also crazily eat? Anyway, breaking through to become a hidden fisher was just around the corner. That would be a breakthrough across realms. He should be able to feast again when the time came. After eating it twice, Little Black and Little White might level up to 47 or 48. Wait! Han Fei suddenly paused. If he ate too much, there would be too much soul power left. Then could he get rid of the soul power gathering if he changed places? Han Fei was tempted and was ready to give it a try. Seeing that a primitive shark-like spiritual beast swam by, Han Fei thought for a moment and bit it. He didn't know how long it had been. Han Fei had changed places more than 10 times. He had completed 2 upgrades, and now Little Black and Little White had reached level 45. And according to his estimation, after changing places at most, he would be able to reach level 46 after eating for a while. Han Fei saw a purple jellyfish rising up. Chomp. He took another bite. When he ate more than half of it, Han Fei suddenly felt a little nervous. The next second, his consciousness quickly left Little Black's body. In Forge the Universe. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes. Han Fei slowly sat up and frowned. No. I can't eat like this either. The escaping soul power seems to always follow Little Black and Little White. Once it reaches a certain level, it will become terrifying. And every time this happens, my consciousness will be separated from Little Black. What happens after that? What is that terrifying thing? Han Fei was silent for a long time, but then he smiled bitterly. Yes, the Soul Sea was an extremely mysterious place. How could it be so easy for him to find a loophole that allowed him to upgrade infinitely? If he thought so, others must have thought so too. If anyone could avoid the rules of the Soul Sea, then wouldn't his spiritual beasts be able to keep eating until they couldn't upgrade anymore? Alas, it seems that I have to figure out other ways to explore the Soul Sea. But in any case, Han Fei was not so discouraged. After all, he had mastered the secrets of the Soul Sea. Otherwise, who could cultivate mysterious creatures so quickly? Although Little Black and Little White were now level 45, Han Fei was sure that as long as he cultivated them for a while, it would not be a problem for them to break through to level 46. I can only explore it next time. After going to the Soul Sea, Han Fei didn't know how long it had been, but he was still not in a hurry to go out. He still needed to upgrade his spiritual heritage. Upgrade. When more than 5 million points of spiritual energy were extracted, Han Fei felt that the meridians all over his body were a little hot. A moment later, his spiritual heritage had been upgraded from level 6, low quality, to level 6, mid quality. Upgrade. After a while, Han Fei found that his spiritual heritage had become level 6, high quality. He took a deep breath and couldn't help but wonder if he was defying the heavens and changing his fate. Han Fei grabbed the heritage dredging fruit and thought for a long time. He knew that if he sold it, it would be invaluable. Ordinary people wouldn't even have a chance to see it. Although it wasn't as heaven-defying as the meridian-stealing fruit, it was still a miraculous fruit that could strengthen one's spirit meridian. As for how much it could improve, of course, he had to eat it first. Han Fei didn't think too much and swallowed it in one gulp. Immediately, Han Fei felt that his body trembled, and the spiritual spring in Forge the Universe began to surge, spontaneously forming a tremendous amount of spiritual energy that flushed his body. However, the flushing was not violent. On the contrary, it felt rather gentle. Han Fei felt that the meridians in his body suddenly became dazzling. Huh! Han Fei sensed that his meridians were a little itchy. Something seemed to be happening. After about half an hour, the dazzling light gradually disappeared. Then, Han Fei was shocked by himself. He subconsciously opened his mouth. Is that even possible? He saw that the meridians all over his body were as clear as crystals. If they were completely extracted, they would be like a perfect work of art. Good-oo. Are they still meridians? Han Fei was stunned for a moment. Then, he quickly looked at the information, only to find that his spiritual heritage had become level 7, low quality. Thankfully, I didn't eat the heritage dredging fruit until my spiritual heritage reached level 6, high quality. So, it's just a level up? But on second thought, Han Fei realized that it did make sense. It was a qualitative leap from level 6 to level 7. Even the lightning strike of the void fishing art could only raise him by 1 level. Yet now, a single meridian unsealing fruit had allowed him to overcome this bottleneck. This was equivalent to experiencing another lightning strike. Was there anything better in this world? Han Fei couldn't help but grin. From this moment on, he knew that his talent had finally crossed the ranks of the heavenly talents. Finally, I've caught up to Tango. Han Fei couldn't help but have mixed feelings. God knew how hard it was for him to come this far from a level 1 damaged meridian. Other people could easily get level 7 or level 8 spiritual heritages without any effort at all. Han Fei, on the other hand, had made his way here step by step and was struck by lightning. Han Fei rose and was about to try to feel his body when he stomped on the ground and left a huge pit. Han Fei staggered and leaned forward, trying to hold the trunk of the big red trunk with one hand. However, he failed to hold it, and his body lurched forward. Han Fei gasped hard. What did he see? The trunk of the big red trunk, which was as strong as an ultra-quality spiritual weapon, had been left with a deep handprint by him? Damn it, Han Fei couldn't be more shocked. How much strength had he gained? Why hadn't he adapted to his current body at all? Until 3 days later, Han Fei had a shocking guess that his strength might have increased by more than 50%. But he couldn't calculate it in this way. The power he exerted with one hand was probably close to 1,000,000 kilograms, which was close to 500 tons. As for his physique, Han Fei grabbed an ultra-quality spiritual weapon and slashed it on himself, only to find that it only left a white mark. He used 50% of his strength to cut a shallow mark on his body. But what did 50% of his strength mean? It meant that the full blow of an ordinary peak-level hanging fisher with an ultra-quality spiritual weapon might not be able to hurt him at all. Han Fei had mixed feelings. In a sense, he was now an ultra-quality spiritual weapon. No, he might be a little stronger. However, this was when the third barrier of the indestructible body hadn't been broken. Han Fei subconsciously had a hunch that if he mastered the 108 desolate god body and practiced the only major acupoint, and if the third barrier of the indestructible body was broken, he felt that his body might be as strong as a divine weapon. This conjecture made Han Fei very excited. The school of body refinement is too terrifying. The 4th chapter. Description: the monthly votes and chapters will be released at the end of the month. Also, my average word count for a single chapter is around 3,000, and I average over 10,000 daily chapters. I know there are better people out there, but let's not compete with them. It's not easy to write 10,000 words a day. I hope everyone can support me with your monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 809. After a day, when Han Fei had fully adapted to his current body, he finally understood what it meant to lift heavy weights as if they were light, so he stabilized his cultivation very well. Han Fei even had a vague feeling that, if he had learned the art of disassembling spiritual energy earlier, improved his soul earlier, practiced the 108 desolate god body earlier, and deduced the void fishing art earlier, maybe he wouldn't have been beaten so badly in the battle against Chen Huangyan. He even felt that he had a 50% chance of blocking Chen Huangyan's attack when he was only a hanging fisher. After all, Forge the Universe wasn't the outside world. If Han Fei wanted to explore the changes of the level 7 spiritual heritage, he had to go to the outside world. After all, it had been 4 days. Those people wouldn't still be waiting outside. In any case, seeing that he disappeared, they probably guessed that he had run away. Thinking that with the sky dissecting finger, it shouldn't be a big problem for him. Swish. Han Fei appeared in the outside world, and it was really peaceful here. In the distant sky, the clouds were sparse, and within his perception, there were a few creatures swimming on the bottom of the sea. But compared to other places, there weren't many. In any case, Han Fei didn't stay in place immediately, but controlled the wind god boat to fly 20,000 kilometers in the direction that Little White had pointed. Then he stopped and landed on the sea. Han Fei released Little Gold and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. At this moment, it was sunset. Han Fei suddenly thought of something. How long had it been since he tried to cultivate with void fishing during the day? Han Fei looked down. The ocean was under his feet. There was an ice stone in Forge the Universe. Even if he was on fire, it shouldn't be a problem as long as he couldn't be burned to death. Immediately, Han Fei tried it. He sat cross-legged on the sea and began to cultivate. The moment he activated the void fishing art, a scorching beam of light seemed to fall from the sky, directly enveloping Han Fei. Whoop! Within a kilometer, the seawater was surging, and countless marine creatures suddenly gathered towards the sea where Han Fei was as if they were crazy. Almost in an instant, Han Fei's newly grown hair and eyebrows began to burn. The billowing spiritual energy gave Han Fei quite a fright. However, to Han Fei's surprise, the moment the scorching pillar of light enshrouded him, Han Fei discovered that although he seemed to be in a magma purgatory, he miraculously felt that he could still hold on. 1 breath. 2 breaths. 3 breaths. After 3 seconds, Han Fei immediately stopped cultivating. He discovered that his skin was being destroyed and his flesh was being torn apart. Seeing that the pillar of flame gradually subsided, Han Fei grinned. He discovered that when his physique reached a certain level, he could actually withstand the attack of the blazing sun. He could even absorb the essence of the blazing sun during the day. Han Fei had a hunch that if he activated the indestructible body during cultivation, he might be able to persist for 10 seconds or even longer. At this moment, he finally understood why Ren Tianfei could return to the peak with the indestructible body after he was crippled. That surge of spiritual energy just now was more than 10 times that of normal cultivation. If this couldn't increase his strength quickly, then what else could he do? Han Fei even suspected that Ren Tianfei had been doing this since he was a fishing master or even a great fishing master. Feeling the creatures rushing at him underwater, Han Fei spread out his hands and murmured, "The energy is enough to perform a powerful sacrificing punch." Spiritual qi was instantly poured into it. "No, I have to try again." Han Fei's body sank into the seawater. In an instant, hundreds of golden fist marks blasted out, and the art of invincibility was thrown out as if it were free. In an instant, countless creatures that came at him were crushed by Han Fei. At the same time, he deliberately didn't store spiritual energy, so that the spiritual energy and energy in his body were consumed quickly. The spiritual energy flows very smoothly, and the effect of the art of invincibility is at least 20% stronger. When this sea area was covered with the blood of creatures, Han Fei returned to the surface of the sea. He began to cultivate again. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. When Han Fei stopped cultivating, he felt that he was full of spiritual energy, which was more than 12,000 points. About 60% of his spiritual energy had been recovered. He had enough energy to fight another battle. However, he didn't recover 100% of his spiritual energy to the peak, only about 70%. Han Fei thought for a moment. "I'll be back in about 5 seconds. No wonder I can do whatever I want in the unknown place after breaking the 3rd barrier of the indestructible body art." Han Fei couldn't help but sigh. I guess Ren Tianfen didn't expect his situation at all when he said this. Right now, I can do whatever I want. It only took him 2 seconds to recover most of his spiritual energy. As long as he judged the timing correctly and used it properly, he could fight indefinitely. Besides, Han Fei clearly found that when he still had a low-level spiritual heritage, there was no such terrifying effect at all. This should be one of the benefits of a level 7 spiritual heritage. But there must be other benefits. What are they? After a while, because a large number of creatures were attracted over, Han Fei didn't deliberately consume spiritual energy and energy this time. When there was only 20% of his spiritual energy left, he steered the fishing boat to leave. Han Fei found that the natural absorption of spiritual energy in battle was much faster, to the point that he could feel it clearly. At first, Han Fei suspected that the effect of his combat skills would be higher and faster, but he found that his recovery ability was increasing, and it was increasing by a large margin. He steered the wind god boat and flew slowly for an hour. Han Fei was surprised to find that the spiritual energy his body automatically absorbed and the spiritual energy consumed to control the fishing boat reached a balance to a certain extent. Hiss! What an amazing recovery speed! 2 days later. Han Fei found the first inferior manfish. The moment he saw the inferior manfish, Han Fei knew that he had probably entered the range of the Scattered Stars Island. 3 days later, Han Fei found that the number of inferior manfish had increased. He landed in the sea and walked towards the inferior manfish step by step. When the inferior manfish saw that Han Fei was a human being, it was furious. Although the gap between the two sides was too big, the inferior manfish couldn't clearly sense Han Fei's strength, so it rushed over. Bam! One punch. Under one punch, the inferior manfish's body exploded. Killing one inferior manfish would inevitably attract more inferior manfish. When a large number of inferior manfish surrounded him, he could really kill them with one punch. Even those who had cultivated to the peak of the demonic transformation realm could only be killed with one punch. At this moment, Han Fei roughly summed up the advantages of a level 7 spiritual heritage. His recovery effect was greatly enhanced. The smoothness of his use of spiritual energy was improved by about 20%. The strength of his meridians was definitely at least 50% stronger than before. Because he practiced the indestructible body and the 108 desolate god body, Han Fei wasn't sure whether the recovery effect of his cultivation during the day was directly related to his spiritual heritage. However, when spiritual energy filled his body, the endurance of his meridians was indeed greatly enhanced. This was also one of the reasons why he could recover spiritual energy and energy so quickly. In short, Han Fei found that an advanced spiritual heritage had an absolute advantage over a low-level one. Whether it was fighting, cultivation, recovery, or any other aspect. Seeing those inferior manfish fleeing in panic, Han Fei didn't run away immediately. After picking up a lot of harpoons, he strolled on the sea leisurely. According to his estimation, the inferior manfish could at most summon half-mermaids or sea demons. Han Fei wanted to know how strong he was right now. He needed someone to refer to him. More than an hour later, a half-mermaid at the peak of the demonic transformation realm carrying a golden harpoon appeared. Seeing that Han Fei was as strong as him, the half-mermaid glanced at his golden harpoon and immediately pointed at Han Fei. "Human, die!" Boom! A sacrificing punch was blasted out. Under the shocked gaze of the half-mermaid heavenly talent, the Sea King's secret technique had just been used, and it was hit by the sacrificing punch. Clang! The remnant body of this inferior manfish flew out more than 800 meters and was directly crushed, without even a chance to struggle. When he walked out of the void, he saw that Han Fei was holding his semi-divine weapon and suppressing it. The half-mermaid heavenly talent didn't dare to take time to recall his weapon and immediately turned around to run. Han Fei didn't stop him. "Run away." He would call a stronger one over. As for those inferior manfish, they had already fled without a trace. Sitting cross-legged on the sea, cultivating for 2 minutes, Han Fei quickly left that area. After waiting for a full hour, Han Fei saw a sea demon realm half-mermaid carrying an ultra-quality demonic weapon. However, looking at the weapon in his hand, Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "You don't even have a semi-divine weapon. How dare you come?" The half-mermaid seemed to know Han Fei's strength. With a hiss, a waterman more than 100 meters tall condensed. "Human, you're just a peak-level hanging fisher. How dare you be so arrogant?" Han Fei twisted his head. "Come on, let me feel how powerful a sea demon realm powerhouse is." First, asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 8:10. Han Fei held his head high and took a deep breath. This was the first time that he had fought a sea demon head-on. Perhaps in other people's eyes, this was a suicidal action. However, for Han Fei, it was particularly easy this time. He had been hiding it, and secretly poisoning it. All the grievances he had been holding back all this time would finally be released this time. Looking at the 100-meter-tall waterman, Han Fei suddenly grinned. Overlord's technique. With his strength increased by 8 times, when Han Fei saw the waterman carrying a huge harpoon and smashing down, he was greeted by a brilliant golden light, as brilliant as the sun. At this moment he seemed to have let go of everything in the past. In his mind, pictures of invincibility automatically emerged. Boom! With one punch, he achieved lesser mastery of the art of invincibility. The 100-meter-tall terrifying waterman exploded under Han Fei's punch. Han Fei murmured in a low voice that only he could hear, "This is the feeling of power." On this day, a 100-meter-tall wave was raised at the bottom of the sea. Han Fei did what only hidden fishers could do before. On this day, the roar echoed for hundreds of kilometers. Han Fei did what only hidden fishers could do before. On this day, Han Fei walked out of the seawater, covered in blood, holding a middle-level sea demon that had been beaten beyond recognition. He roared at the sky. Half a month later, on the Scattered Stars Island, on the skeleton shore, the 8th Battalion was having a barbecue. Gu Daliang was holding a wine jar and drinking crazily. With a prawn in his mouth, he bragged to the newcomer next to him, "That's how my captain ate." However, where did he get so many strange spiritual fruits? There's something called chili. It's the most delicious thing in the world. The newcomer said solemnly, "Captain, is he the legendary captain of the 8th Battalion, Han Fei? The one who wounded the Dark Hunters and forced him to go to sea?" Gu Daliang said innocently, "Who else do you think he is? What a shame. If he were here, the equipment of the 8th Battalion would be the best among all the battalions." "Daliang, Sister Lingyun has been appointed captain. It's official." Wu Xiaoxiao hopped over happily and grabbed Gu Daliang. "Come, let's go celebrate and call Ling Hui back from the garrison. I heard that he caught an exotic creature 2 days ago. Let's trick him and eat it." Gu Daliang was stunned. "That's not good. How can you eat exotic creatures just because you want to?" Wu Xiaoxiao exclaimed and said coquettishly, "It's not like I haven't eaten it before." He was now the deputy commander, so what was wrong with eating an exotic creature? Besides, when Captain was here, what haven't we eaten? Wu Xiaoxiao, you're already a captain, so why are you still acting like a little girl? A stern reprimand sounded. Suddenly, everyone stopped laughing. Many people stood ramrod straight and spoke at the same time, "Captain. Captain, come and have some." "Congratulations, Captain. You've won 4 stars." "Congratulations, Sister Lingyun." Wu Xiaoxiao immediately puffed up her cheeks. She held Yu Lingyun's arm and said, "Sister Lingyun, Ling Hui is really something. He left for our team anyway, but he didn't come back for a visit. He didn't even invite us to eat the exotic creature that he got." Yu Lingyun snorted and complained, "Eat, eat. All you know is to eat. You've been spoiled by Captain." Suddenly, a cold voice echoed from dozens of meters away. From the shadows of emptiness, an expressionless, skinny man slowly walked out. The man threw a purple lobster indifferently and said in a low voice, "Here it is." Wu Xiaoxiao's eyes immediately glittered. You still remember to come back? You didn't even come back after you were transferred to be the deputy commander?" Leng Hui said casually, "The garrison isn't that relaxed. The sea demons have been stirring trouble again." Yu Lingyun frowned and asked, "Why again? It's only been 3 months since the Great War. Is there going to be another war?" Leng Hui shook his head. "It's not a great war, but a small-scale one. The sea demons are pressuring the Scattered Stars Island." Wu Xiaoxiao asked in surprise, "Pressuring? What's wrong with that?" Leng Hui said casually, "I'm told that a mysterious expert appeared on the outer sea recently and killed countless sea demons. 15 half-mermaids in the sea demon realm have been killed by him. Countless regular half-mermaids and inferior manfish have been killed by him." Yu Lingyun frowned, and the scar on the corner of her eye slightly curled. "Isn't it common for human beings to fight sea demons? Why are they pressuring us?" Leng Hui said in a low voice, "I'm told that the man hunts one expert in the sea demon realm every day. It's been 15 days since then, and he's killed 15 people. The sea demons suspect that an unknown expert has been sent out by human beings. After all, experts in the sea demon realm aren't small fries. They need to train for a long time too." Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Wu Xiaoxiao was shocked. "What? Kill one a day? That's an expert equal to a hidden fisher. Gu Daliang was so shocked that he dropped the lobster in his mouth. He finally remarked after a long time, "What a tough guy." Yu Lingyun smiled bitterly. Such an expert? Alas. Why doesn't he listen to the Scattered Stars Island? I hope he doesn't start a war with sea demons again. In the last war, the 8th Battalion, bless. A moment later, the 4 of them hid in the back mountain and were cooking an exotic lobster. Wu Xiaoxiao sighed. I wonder how the captain is doing. Yu Lingyun thought for a moment. She couldn't help but smile when she remembered Han Fei's laziness. Then she heaved a sigh. It's been almost a year. Last time, I met his former teammates in the logistics division. He didn't look too good when I asked him about it. Gu Daliang heaved a long sigh and said, I can't imagine it. How hard must it be for a lazy man like the captain to go to sea? What they didn't say was how a man who was only an intermediate hanging fisher was still alive after such a long time. Do you really want me to die? Suddenly, a leisurely voice suddenly echoed behind Yu Lingyun and the others. Yu Lingyun, Wu Xiaoxiao, Gu Daliang, Leng Hui. How have you been? It was like a bolt from the blue that exploded in the minds of the few of them. Yu Lingyun and the others all stood up with shock in their eyes. Wu Xiaoxiao covered her mouth. Gu Daliang's eyes widened. Oh, Captain? Yu Lingyun's mouth was wide open. Why, you're back? Han Fei put on a shallow smile. I didn't want to come here. There's something I need your help with. I happen to be most familiar with this place. Wu Xiaoxiao was instantly shocked. Captain, you're not dead? Han Fei rolled his eyes. Who are you talking to if I'm dead? Leng Hui stared at Han Fei's waist in a daze. Captain, your waist tag is gone. It was not until then that everybody noticed that Han Fei had lost his waist tag. And without the star token, he would definitely be discovered if he went to the city. Han Fei said casually, It's broken. Gu Daliang said innocently, Captain, you have to find a good opportunity to show up. If you show up rashly, the Scattered Stars prison will definitely come to catch you. Han Fei chuckled. Daliang, you're still too naive. They'll still come to catch me no matter how many times I try. I'm here to ask you for a favor. Yu Lingyun slightly narrowed her eyes. What favor? Han Fei put on a cruel smile. Go to the logistics division and inform Lu Renquang that I'm back. Yu Lingyun thought for a moment. Han Fei's favor was simple. He would understand the key after thinking for a moment. Without his waist tag, Han Fei would be questioned if he showed up rashly. Han Fei didn't know where Zhang Xuanyu was. Not everybody could enter the command center where Luo Xiaobai was. Only the logistics division usually had too many people going there. No matter who went there, they wouldn't raise any suspicion. Han Fei's return would never have anything to do with them. Yu Lingyun nodded solemnly. But I'll do it now. Han Fei raised his hand and stopped Yu Lingyun. There's no rush. Let's go after this meal. I've been on the sea for so long that I've almost forgotten everything. A moment later, Wu Xiaoxiao sat next to Han Fei and watched him throw more seasonings into the pot. At this moment, she was gorging herself and couldn't help but ask questions non-stop. Captain, did you find the girl? Captain, have you been on the sea for such a long time? Captain, if you were on the sea all the time, how could nobody know you? Captain, is the outer sea dangerous? Captain, Han Fei had a headache. He glared at Wu Xiaoxiao and said, If you keep asking questions, I'll throw you into the sea. Wu Xiaoxiao stuck out her tongue. Her captain was still as fierce when he was angry. Leng Hui had been frowning the whole time and didn't say anything. At this moment he asked, Captain, why do you have such intense demonic qi? Yu Lingyun noticed it too, but she chose to trust Han Fei and never asked. Han Fei's lips curled. Are you suspecting that I'm a sea demon spy? Han Fei waved his hand and threw out the remains of a half-mermaid. Immediately, an intense demonic qi spread out. In the next moment, Han Fei waved his hand and retracted it. Han Fei said, Don't worry. I have 15 more like this. They were all shocked, especially Leng Hui, whose voice was shivering. 15? You're the mysterious expert who hunts the half-mermaids in the sea demon realm? Clang! The lobster head that Gu Daliang was holding fell to the ground. Wu Xiaoxiao and Yu Lingyun looked at Han Fei in shock. Han Fei scratched his head. Well, how did you know that? Gudu! While everybody swallowed, Han Fei rose. I don't owe you anything. I finished half of the lobster on my own. Here's an opportunity for you. Bam! 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 Four behemoths ranging from 20 to 30 meters fell to the ground. Gu Daliang's eyes widened. Weird. They're all weird. Wu Xiaoxiao took a deep breath. What a huge creature. I've never seen one before. However, when they raised their heads, Han Fei had already disappeared into the dark forest. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 8:11. Han Fei's waist tag had been completely shattered when he was killed by Chun Huangdian. On the Scattered Stars Island, without a waist tag, you would be investigated no matter what you looked like. Han Fei was able to sneak to the skeleton shore because he was very familiar with this area. Even so, they were almost discovered by hidden fishers several times in the periphery of the sea. He finally snuck to the skeleton shore after taking a detour and hiding. 3 days passed. In the Dark Hunter Legion, it was still the same deep blue forest. Not a single person could be seen in it. Occasionally, the sound of chewing could be heard, which was the sound of someone eating. For a hunter, the most important thing was to hide themselves. If they wanted to talk, they had to talk telepathically. Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying had become captains of their respective squads. After almost a year, both of them had become peak-level hanging fishers. After so many hunting missions, they were half a step into the realm of hidden fishers. At this moment, on a big tree, Gong Wenhai unhurriedly stuffed dried fish into his mouth. At the same time, he transmitted his voice to Yang Ying, who was on a branch next to him. We've sent out 11 teams, but we still haven't found anything about that mysterious expert. I don't want to waste all my time looking for him. I don't think we can find a hidden fisher even if we look for him. Yang Ying said casually, we'll go as soon as we receive the mission. This time, the deputy captain has gone in person. There shouldn't be anything else for us to do. Gong Wenhai secretly chuckled. Yang Ying, I find that you talk too much. Before, you only said a few words at most. Yang Ying put on a casual smile. Isn't that good? Gong Wenhai shook his head. No, it's good. It's just that you've been working even harder on your training after that incident. You need to relax yourself and go shopping on your vacation. Girls like to go shopping on their days off. Why don't I go with you tomorrow? Yang Ying looked at Gong Wenhai coldly. You want to chase me? Gong Wenhai was a little embarrassed. He laughed silently. Aren't you and I the only ones left from our team? We should get closer to each other. Yang Ying sneered. You've forgotten Xia Xiaochan? Gong Wenhai smirked. What are you talking about? I did have a good impression of Xia Xiaochan, but didn't she betray the clan? Even if they didn't betray the clan, how long had it been? No hanging fisher could survive so long outside the Scattered Stars Island. 99% of them had died. Also, I realized that I don't like people with a tsundra character. Yang Ying glanced at Gong Wenhai and jumped from one tree to another in a flash. She had secretly heard Gong Wenhai say these words to a few girls. Does he really think that I, Yang Ying, am a fool? Yang Ying's lips curled into a cold sneer. Logically speaking, his revenge on Xia Xiaochan and Han Fei had been successful. However, she also witnessed the love between Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. This was what she disliked the most, extremely disliked. Yang Ying wondered, how could a guy like him have such a good relationship? They don't deserve it. Gong Wenhai approached again and said telepathically, Yang Ying, why are you leaving? Let me tell you, Guan Qingyan and Mu Jia have worked out a way to make semi-divine weapons together. Haven't you always wanted a semi-divine dagger? Thanks to my connections, I've asked someone to give me a chance. If you want, I'll take you to see it tomorrow. It's a semi-divine weapon. Yang Ying asked in surprise, a semi-divine weapon? Gong Wenhai said proudly, of course. You have no idea how many people are waiting in line for a chance. I walked out of the back door. With everything coming to this point, it's time for me to tell you my real identity. Stunned for a moment, Yang Ying looked at Gong Wenhai in shock. What other identities do you have? Gong Wenhai said unhurriedly, actually, who is it? Before Gong Wenhai could finish speaking, he suddenly heard a reprimanding voice from not far away. Suddenly, a hunter charged out of the shadows towards an empty space. However, a golden fist mark flashed in the air, and the hunter was flung away. Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying flashed out at the same time. As captains, they were definitely not weak at this moment. It was not a trivial matter that someone had snuck into the Dark Hunter Legion. However, the moment they charged at the shadow, both Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying felt that their hair was standing on end, as if they had been stared at by a terrifying creature. Immediately, they retreated quickly. Gong Wenhai roared, "Someone's intruding!" Shwa, shwa, shwa. More people were coming from all directions. From the shadow, a figure dashed out at a terrifying speed. The moment the figure dashed out, at least 20 hunters took action one after another. Many of the daggers that appeared and disappeared mysteriously landed on the figure's body. However, to their astonishment, the newcomer actually completely disregarded their attacks and allowed the daggers to descend onto his body, causing a wave of clanging sounds to resound out. All of a sudden, dozens of streaks of golden light appeared before Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying. No matter how fast they reacted, they couldn't resist the attacks that arrived in an instant. Poof! Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying were punched multiple times in a row. They were flung away and rolled dozens of meters on the ground. Kacha! Gong Wenhai vomited 2 mouthfuls of blood in a row. His arms were broken. He was appalled at that moment. Gong Wenhai exclaimed in shock, "A hidden fissure! A hidden fissure has invaded." Yang Ying vomited multiple mouthfuls of blood too. The moment she was blasted away, she held a flash stone in her hand. However, before she crushed the flash stone, she found that her hands were gone. A miserable cry resounded through the forest. What did it mean for a hunter to have a broken hand? Although there were powerhouses who could use secret arts to hasten their growth, it was not an easy task. When Yang Ying forced herself to calm down from the screams, she saw a figure appear in front of her. When Yang Ying looked up, she was in disbelief, followed by fear and shock. But then, Yang Ying's gaze turned vicious and ruthless. "It's you? You're not dead?" Han Fei looked down at Yang Ying and sneered. "You never thought that I would come back, did you? Did you think that I must have died outside? Do you think that no one knows what you've done?" Seeing that Yang Ying's body slightly trembled, Han Fei moved as fast as lightning and grabbed her neck. Bam! After Han Fei punched her, Yang Ying vomited a mouthful of blood. Her abdomen had been destroyed by the terrifying power, and her internal organs were all damaged. "Captain, bold thief, how dare you commit murder in the Dark Hunter Legion? Are you tired of living? Asshole, I'm going to kill you. Murderer, let go of our captain." On the other side, Gong Wenhai staggered to his feet in fright. "It's you? How can it be you? How are you still alive?" Han Fei tilted his head and glanced at Gong Wenhai indifferently. "Sorry, but you may not be able to give me your semi-divine daggers." Gong Wenhai was shocked. Did he hear that? In the next moment, Gong Wenhai roared, "Han Fei, last time, you broke into the Dark Hunter Legion and went to sea. This time, you tried to kill me the moment you came back. This is an unpardonable crime. Have you thought about the consequences?" Han Fei? More and more people gathered around him. They were all dumbfounded when they saw Han Fei. He's crazy. He's a fucking lunatic. On the Scattered Stars Island, at least on this island, no one had ever killed a fellow clansman. But Han Fei was so crazy that he came even though he knew the consequences would be severe. He wasted Yang Ying's cultivation as soon as he attacked. Not just that, Han Fei was quite unstoppable the last time he came. But that time, the door-carrying marshal showed up, and the Dark Hunter Legion was invincible. This time, he had relied on his own strength to sneak into the forest, and no one had discovered him. Almost at the same time, many people began to call and talk to each other telepathically. At the same time, Zhang Teng of the Scattered Stars prison was reading all kinds of documents. Since he learned that sea demons were indeed capable of pretending to be human beings, he had been busy. There were too many things to check. There were thousands of people on the secret investigation list, involving various departments. Up to now, he had only checked 70% or 80% of them, and some were still under observation. Suddenly, a subordinate rushed in a panic. My lord, seeing his subordinate so panicked, Zhang Teng subconsciously knew that something was going to happen. However, he was not in a hurry. As long as it was on the Scattered Stars Island, it wouldn't be a big deal. Zhang Teng said casually, "Don't be so panicked. If there's anything, you could have just told me telepathically." The man said, "My lord, Han Fei is back." Zhang Teng suddenly stood up and asked with a serious face, "Where is he?" "Yes, in the Dark Hunter Legion." Zhang Teng felt that his blood was freezing. "It's the Dark Hunter Legion again. If you're back, just come to the Scattered Stars prison obediently. Do you think I can kill you? Why do you keep going to the Dark Hunter Legion?" Zhang Teng shouted, "If there's anything, wait for me to come back. I'll go there in person." Pei Yi, who had just finished a mission and was about to go out to sea to patrol in person, was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, she was not far away from the Scattered Stars Island, considering several places and deciding which direction she should go. Suddenly, she sensed someone's message. "Deputy Commander, come back quickly. Han Fei has broken into the Dark Hunter Legion." Pei Yi was stunned for a moment, and then her face changed greatly. She shouted, "Go back, go back, go back to the Dark Hunter Legion." Third chapter? Asking for votes. Today's third chapter? Writing at 7 o'clock tonight. You know the place. End of this chapter. Chapter 8:12. Thank you, leader of the Silent Alliance. In the Dark Hunter Legion, Han Fei was surrounded by hundreds of hunters. Among them, there were even a few 6-star experts. Some of them were already hidden fishers. Gong Wenhai and Yang Ying's former captain, Shui Ran, were among them. Shui Ran roared angrily, "Han Fei, no matter what happened to you, you'd better let go of Yang Ying now. Otherwise, you'll be dead for sure." "Dead for sure?" Han Fei grinned and chuckled. "I've been wandering in the outer sea for so long, but I'm still alive. You're telling me that I'll be dead for sure after I return to the Scattered Stars Island?" Shui Ran had a headache. Han Fei had shown great strength. Also, he was holding Yang Ying's neck. Nobody dared to attack him. As long as Han Fei gently squeezed, no matter how fast they were, Yang Ying would definitely die. Shui Ran said again, "Han Fei, let's talk nicely. I don't know what you know about Xia Xiaochan, but it has nothing to do with Yang Ying. But this has nothing to do with Yang Ying. Why did you capture her?" Han Fei glanced at Shui Ran coldly. "Nothing to do with her?" Then Han Fei turned around and looked at Shui Ran. "Few people can escape with flash stones on the Scattered Stars Island. Do you think I'd give you a chance if you didn't seize the time? But you were the one who stalked me on the skeleton shore more than a year ago, weren't you?" Seeing Yang Ying's hateful eyes, Han Fei confirmed it. Han Fei said again, "You want to kill me? You're not a sea demon. Even if you are, you have no reason to attack me and Xia Xiaochan. So, you're my enemy? I've forgotten that I've ever had an enemy like you." Seeing that Yang Ying glared at him with bloodshot eyes, Han Fei snorted. "You're going to die today whether you say it or not. I'll give you a chance to tell me. Why did you attack Xia Xiaochan with demonic qi? How did you know that she would be attacked? Who are you exactly?" Many people of the Dark Hunter Legion were puzzled by that. However, judging from Han Fei's tone, there seemed to be some unresolvable grudge between him, Xia Xiaochan, and Yang Ying. Shui Ran was stunned too. Was it Yang Ying who attacked Xia Xiaochan? What's wrong with her? Although Xia Xiaochan was occasionally irritable, how could he not know that Xia Xiaochan was sick? If Shui Ran didn't know, how would Yang Ying know? Gong Wenhai roared, "Han Fei, don't make irresponsible remarks. It's clearly Xia Xiaochan's problem, Han Fei glared at him and Gong Wenhai subconsciously stepped back in fright. Then, he felt as if he had been greatly insulted. He was scared by Han Fei's gaze. That was so fucking embarrassing. However, before Gong Wenhai continued, Han Fei said indifferently, "Do you want to die too?" From the last time Han Fei forced himself to go to sea, Gong Wenhai had known that Han Fei was a lunatic, a complete lunatic. If he wasn't a lunatic, would he have dared to break into the Dark Hunter Legion? If he wasn't a lunatic, would he dare to venture into the sea outside the Scattered Stars Island alone? If he wasn't a lunatic, would he break into the Dark Hunter Legion and kill people in public the moment he returned? Intimidated by Han Fei, Gong Wenhai blushed. He was angry but dared not say anything. Han Fei sneered. "Coward." These two words almost caused Gong Wenhai to fly into a rage again. However, a hand was placed on Gong Wenhai's body. A figure flashed down from the sky. It was Pei Yi, the deputy commander of the Dark Hunter Legion. Pei Yi landed and looked at Han Fei coldly. "Let go of me and I'll spare your life. I'll hand you over to the Scattered Stars prison and they'll deal with you justly." Ha! Han Fei burst into laughter and looked at Pei Yi crazily. "Spare my life? With just you? I've killed at least 20 Sea Demon Realm powerhouses, if not 30. Spare my life? Do I need your mercy?" Many of the hunters around Han Fei gasped. Han Fei pointed out the experts in the Sea Demon Realm, which were equivalent to hidden fishers. He had killed so many? He was only a peak-level hanging fisher. How could he have killed so many? Pei Yi was shocked too. For some reason, her intuition told her that she should believe what Han Fei said. However, she still believed that no matter how talented Han Fei was, he couldn't be stronger than her. Ignoring her, Han Fei continued to look at Yang Ying. "You have one more chance to talk. I'll send you on your way after you talk. Why did you follow me? Why did you frame Xia Xiaochun? Who are you exactly?" He. Yang Ying's body dangled in the air helplessly. Blood dripped from the corner of her mouth. She slowly raised her head. "You deserve to die. You deserve to die, and Xia Xiaochun deserves to die too. It's a pity that I only killed Xia Xiaochun but not you." Shui Ran, Gong Wenhai, and Pei Yi were all surprised. Was it really Yang Ying who did it? Han Fei didn't say anything. Looking at Yang Ying, he loosened his grip a little to make it easier for her to talk. Yang Ying took a deep breath and smiled. "Do you know what my little name is?" Han Fei frowned. Yang Ying coughed and struggled to say, "My nickname is Yang Guo. I killed you and Xia Xiaochun for revenge." For a moment, Han Fei felt that the name was familiar, but he couldn't figure it out. Seeing Han Fei's confusion, Yang Ying said with a self-mocking smile, "I was born in the little gate village in Triumph Town. I have a lover. His name is Lien Qi." Suddenly, Han Fei remembered that Lien Qi teamed up with other people to hunt him and Xia Xiaochun on the way to the steps into the sea from the undersea city in the level 3 fishery. At that time, Xia Xiaochun praised Lien Qi and said that he was not bad. Han Fei snorted coldly. "That's how it is in the level 3 fishery. Lien Qi ganged up on me and Xia Xiaochun. It's only right that I killed him." Yang Ying struggled crazily and roared, "Life and death are commonplace for cultivators. You can kill him, but why did you insult him? You hung him on the mast, you threw his corpse to a bunch of lunatics to fight over. Cultivation, everyone's blood has already turned cold. You are devils and evil. You deserve to die." The more Yang Ying spoke, the more agitated she became. "You're all guilty. You're not worthy of love. Even if I was given another chance, 10 times, or even 100 times, I would do everything in my power to kill you. If there's a next life, I'd rather be a fish, a crab, or a clam than be born in this sinful world." Everybody in the Dark Hunter Legion fell silent. Han Fei stared at Yang Ying expressionlessly. In the sky, Zhang Teng and the commander of the Dark Hunter Legion who had just arrived fell silent too. In the end, Yang Ying said in a low voice, "Although Xia Xiaochun is dead, you're not. You're the culprit." Han Fei was silent for a moment. I'm sorry. This is a belated apology. Also, Xia Xiaochan is not dead. Finally, I hope you have a next life. Yang Ying suddenly raised her head. However, after a crack, the brilliance in Yang Ying's eyes gradually faded. Han Fei didn't know what Yang Ying was thinking at the last second. However, he didn't feel very happy after killing Yang Ying in person. Han Fei said casually, "It's not just the sins of the human world. The world is full of sins. Birth, aging, sickness and death, gratitude and grudges, cultivating in defiance of the heavens, conquering and slaughtering, the cycle of the heavenly Tao never stopped. I won't stop, and nobody will." After that, Han Fei loosened his grip and looked at Zhang Teng in the sky, before he said in relief, "You're here." Zhang Teng's expression changed. Not knowing what to say, he simply grunted in the end. A hunter attacked Han Fei, but Han Fei punched him away without even looking at him. "Even if you want to kill me, you won't be able to." Another boat arrived quietly, and Luo Xiaobai, Lu Renquang, Zhang Xuanyu, and the door-carrying marshal jumped from the sky one after another. The door-carrying marshal didn't say anything to comfort him. He simply patted Han Fei's shoulder and looked at Zhang Teng. "Junior brother, it's fine. I'd like to see who dares to take you away today. Wang Dashuai, this is the second time. Do you really think the Dark Hunter Legion can't deal with you?" Wang Dashuai set the big gate on the ground. "Why don't you try?" Zhang Xuanyu immediately came to Han Fei. "Fei." After only one word, Zhang Xuanyu didn't know what to say anymore. He knew that neither Han Fei nor Xia Xiaochan were dead, so he was relieved a few months ago. They all saw and heard what happened just now. At this moment he really didn't know what to say. Hee. Suddenly Han Fei chuckled and said, "Senior brother, Xiao Bai, Zhang Xuanyu, Lu Renquang, don't worry about me. It's the Scattered Stars prison. I'm a little tired. I can go in and rest for a few days." "Everyone?" Zhang Teng was lost for words. "What do you think the Scattered Stars prison is? An inn where you can come and go as you please? Is the Scattered Stars prison a place for you to rest?" Wang Dashuai said, "Junior brother, what are you talking about? If you want to rest, go to my place." Han Fei gave Wang Dashuai a look. "No, I just want to go to the Scattered Stars prison to rest." Zhang Xuanyu was speechless. "Fei, have you been traumatized by something? Is the Scattered Stars prison a place to rest?" Lu Renquang was about to speak when he was stopped by Luo Xiaobai. She said, "If he wants to go, let him go." Then Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. "How long will you be gone?" Han Fei grinned. "It depends. Maybe I'll come out soon, or maybe a little later." Zhang Teng felt that 10,000 iron-head fish were galloping in his heart. "Do you really think the Scattered Stars prison is an inn?" Fourth update. More updates. Kiss. End of this chapter. Chapter 8:13. To Aya, "I'm so angry, Alliance Master." No matter the reason for Yang Ying's death, it was something that had to be dealt with seriously. At least on the Scattered Stars Island, if there was any problem, the Scattered Stars prison would come forward to punish them. However, Han Fei had come to their door and attacked them forcefully. Even if there was a reason, he couldn't attack them on his own. This was the rule. Besides, the Dark Hunter Legion didn't care what Han Fei's reason was. Xia Xiaochan had been cold and tough when she was in the Dark Hunter Legion. She wasn't as likable as Yang Ying. Also, it had been a long time since the incident with Xia Xiaochan, and Yang Ying had been in the Dark Hunter Legion for a long time. When Han Fei left, almost everyone glared at him angrily. Someone was annoyed. "He comes and goes as he pleases?" Someone said angrily, "Bastard, lunatic with this kind of attitude, he's definitely not a good person." I think Yang Ying's actions are pardonable. He was the one who started the hatred. Someone's eyes were cold. The Thug Academy has never had anything good. Outside the Scattered Stars prison. Naturally, the door-carrying marshal and the others tagged along. Wang Dashuai said, "No matter what, my junior brother can't be wronged. If I find out what the Scattered Stars prison did, even if I don't pick a fight with you, you know that when the other two come back, you'll suffer. Zhang Ting raised his eyebrows. Wang Dashui, you are provoking and interfering with the law enforcement of the Scattered Stars prison. Wang Dashui snorted. If my junior brother hadn't gone in to rest for 2 days, do you think you could have taken him away? Lu Renkuang followed Han Fei. Fei, do you want me to send you a message or something? Lu Renkuang vaguely knew that there was someone more powerful in the twisted jungle. That was why he asked this question. Han Fei shook his head. When it's time to come out, I will naturally come out. Han Fei suddenly looked at Lu Renkuang and said, help me look for the bones of descendants of the dragon bloodline. I don't want low-grade ones. Then he looked at Zhang Xuanyu up and down. You're at the peak. Are you faster than Lu Renkuang? Zhang Xuanyu grinned. Of course. That fatty doesn't do anything, I fight a lot. After a pause, he looked at Zhang Teng and said, well, I'll go in later. I'll take out my hunting harvest first. The corners of Zhang Teng's mouth were trembling, and he wished he could slap Han Fei to death. Where the hell do you think you are? However, before Zhang Teng spoke, Han Fei waved his hand. Ding ding dang dang. Immediately, a pile of demon-level high-quality harpoons piled up into a hill and landed in the courtyard of the Scattered Stars prison. Zhang Teng curled his lips. These are not worth much. Ding ding dang dang. Han Fei threw out a bunch of ultra-quality ones and glanced at Zhang Teng. The materials can still be used after they're melted. Zhang Teng's eyelids twitched. How many sea demons did Han Fei kill? That pile from before, there were hundreds of them. There were more than 100 ultra-quality harpoons. Ding ding dang dang. In an instant, the brilliant golden light almost blinded the group of people. This damn. Zhang Xuanyu exclaimed, Fei Fei, did you just destroy the sea demon's nest? The flesh on Lu Renkuang's face trembled. 1 set, 2 sets, Luo Xiaobai said directly, 12 semi-divine harpoons and 9 sets of battle suits. Zhang Teng's eyelids also twitched, and he was speechless. Did this guy really destroy the sea demon's nest? When he saw Han Fei waving his hand again, his eyelids twitched again. There more? Plop plop. He took a closer look, only to see the remains of 15 half-mermaids lying here. As strong as Zhang Teng was, how could he not see them? Sea Demon Realm Powerhouse. Are you the mysterious killer these days? Han Fei thought for a while. He definitely couldn't take out the refining divine platform. Otherwise, it would be exposed that he had been to the 10,000 Demon Valley. Except for those, he had already thrown the other things to Lu Renkuang in the demonic forest channel. Han Fei glanced at Lu Renkuang and said, okay, there's nothing else. Fatty, do you have anything for me? Lu Renkuang immediately said, by the way, I know you will definitely come back, but I guess you lack resources outside. We are good brothers, so of course I will save some good things for you. Here are level 2 soul crystals and spirit awakening fluid. You can cultivate here and try to become a hidden fisher. Zhang Teng's face darkened. What do you think this place is? You want to cultivate in my Scattered Stars prison? Han Fei took the sea-swallowing seashell and threw it to Zhang Teng. Take a look. If there are no questions, give it back to me. I still need to cultivate inside. Zhang Teng gnashed his teeth. You have been outside for so long. You still have to investigate. Wang Dashui shouted, investigate what? There are so many battle credits here. Are you kidding me? Zhang Teng snorted coldly. We will find out whether they are battle credits or not. If there is no problem, he will be rewarded. But you broke into the Dark Hunter Legion twice, left the island without permission, and killed people in public. Are there any rules? Also, since Ya Xiaochan is not dead, where did she go? Han Fei glanced at him casually. You don't have enough authority to know. Zhang Teng sneered. I don't have enough authority? Who has enough authority? Don't tell me you want Marshal Shui to come and ask you personally? Han Fei chuckled. Even if he comes in person, I won't tell you. This is an internal affair of the Thug Academy and has nothing to do with the Scattered Stars Island. Wang Dashui nodded. Yes, I know my junior sister. She was obviously framed by Yang Ying. You heard it yourself. As for the rest, do I still need you to ask where my junior sister has gone? Zhang Ting glanced at the people of the Thug Academy. Irrelevant people, leave now. Han Fei will have his own judgment. The Scattered Stars prison is a place that cares about right and wrong, not a place for you boors. Wang Dashui held the door with one hand. I dare you to say that again. Just when the two sides were at loggerheads, a voice sounded in everyone's ears. Wang Dashui, go back to your Empyrean waterfall. The others, return to your positions. Zhang Teng, temporarily detain Han Fei to the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison. Han Fei's spoils will be counted soon. If he wants to cultivate, let him cultivate in the prison. Hearing this voice, Wang Dashui froze, and Zhang Ting even bowed to the sky. Yes, Marshal. Luo Xiaobai and the others were also stunned for a long time. Why did Xue Shenqi have to show up for this? Han Fei was stunned himself. He had always heard of Xue Shenqi, the Supreme Commander, but he had never seen him in person. Now, as soon as Xue Shenqi spoke, even his senior brother became a quail? Han Fei knew that he would definitely be arrested for killing people on the island. However, his thoughts were that he had been reckless before, so he might as well be reckless this time. I can't pay for my crimes with military merits, but I still have old Jiang. Besides, Han Fei didn't intend to be stationed on the island this time, so he killed so many people in advance before he came back. His top priority was to improve his strength to the level of a hidden fisher. It was not a solution to go to old Jiang, which would only bring trouble. He might as well settle down in the Scattered Stars prison for a while. Besides, Han Fei vaguely felt that there seemed to be something in the Scattered Stars prison that was attracting him, which was one of the reasons why he wanted to come here. Well, now Xue Shenqi had spoken in person. Besides, he directly locked him up on the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison. What did this mean? Zhang Teng had told him before. The people imprisoned in the Scattered Stars prison were stronger and stronger. There seemed to be terrifying experts on the 4th level. Wasn't Xue Shenqi afraid that he would be killed by them? In fact, not only Han Fei was surprised. Wang Dashui's face also darkened. The 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison was not a good place. He had to find his seniors to solve this problem. Although Luo Xiaobai and the others didn't know what the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison meant, they were still surprised. But he was still surprised. Why did he bet on the 4th floor? The most surprised one was Zhang Teng. No one knew better than him what the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison was. On the entire 4th level, there was only one person, a place that only he and Xue Shenqi could go to. He didn't know what Xue Shenqi was going to do there, but he knew that he was going to deliver food. He had to deliver a sea-swallowing seashell full of spiritual fruits, seafood, and other things at once. He couldn't help but take a deep look at Han Fei. What's so special about this kid? Is it because he's a genius? There were so many geniuses in the Scattered Stars first unit. Which one of them wasn't talented outside? Han Fei glanced at Luo Xiaobai and the others. Senior brothers, you go back first. Wang Dashui nodded seriously. Okay. Luo Xiaobai glanced at Han Fei. We'll wait for you to come out. Han Fei glanced at Zhang Teng. Let's go. Han Fei was a little suspicious of Xue Shenqi's purpose and felt that something was wrong. At this moment he was also a little worried. Is it possible that I can't come out this time? No way. Based on his understanding of old Jiang, he must be an unfathomable and powerful person. Can't he get me out of the Scattered Stars prison? In the Scattered Stars prison. Zhang Ting led Han Fei to the staircase at the bottom floor and suddenly stopped. He looked at Han Fei and said, although Dashui wants to take you to the 4th level, you still have to ask the questions. Where have you been all this time? Where is Xia Xiaochun? Does the disappearance of the Sea Demon Mountain have anything to do with you? What happened back then? Han Fei's lips curled. Even Dashui didn't ask. Why are you asking? Let's go down. Zhang Teng said solemnly, Han Fei, do you know where the 4th level is? If you tell me now, you can even beg Dashui for mercy with your military merits. Han Fei smiled. That's unnecessary. I can only tell you that I've been exploring a treasure trove outside. I can't tell you anything else. Zhang Ting asked, What treasure trove? Where is it? What did you do? Did you get in touch with sea demons? Han Fei said with a casual smile, 1,000,000 kilometers away. I forgot the location. What else can I do except improve my strength? Of course I got in touch with sea demons. I killed a lot of them. You saw it. Zhang Teng was lost for words. You're a dead fish. What's the difference between telling me and not telling me? Except for killing some sea demons half a month before his return, what about the rest of the time? Thinking of Shueishenqi, Zhang Teng snorted. After you enter the 4th level, you can only wait for Da Shui to release you. Han Fei said unhurriedly, don't worry about it. After climbing 8 steps in a row, Han Fei's pupils slightly constricted when he saw a blue barrier. A barrier? Zhang Teng said casually, that's good. You can't escape from the 4th level of the Scattered Stars prison no matter how strong you are. Just stay there. Han Fei asked in surprise, you're not sending me in? Zhang Teng snorted. There are no cells on the 4th level. You can go in by yourself. I'll update at 5. Please vote, please vote, please vote. I'll break out again at the end of the month. End of this chapter. Chapter 8:14. Han Fei was speechless when he heard that there were no cells on the 4th floor. So, did Shueishenqi lock him up with an unknown and mysterious expert? Then why the hell would he and Lurenquang need a sea-swallowing seashell? What if he was robbed? However, on second thought, if he was really such a peerless expert, there was no reason for him to rob a junior like him. That would be too embarrassing. On the other hand, if Shueishenqi wanted to kill him, he wouldn't have locked him up in the Scattered Stars prison. He could have killed him with any random reason. Why would he send him to the 4th floor of the Scattered Stars prison? Having figured it out, Han Fei wasn't afraid anymore. After all, he wasn't going to die. Han Fei walked into the barrier without hesitation, which puzzled Zhang Teng. Why is this guy so bold? Even I, as the warden, dare not enter this place, but you just walked in with a smile? Since he couldn't figure it out, Zhang Teng didn't bother to think about it. They were all big shots and he couldn't afford to mess with them. It wasn't that he was afraid of the Thug Academy, but that this was an academy with many legendary stories and couldn't be judged by common sense. As soon as Han Fei entered the barrier, he was shocked. It turned out to be another space. Just like the Scattered Stars first unit, it was built in a secret realm. Han Fei saw a garden where flowers emitting all kinds of strange light were blooming, just like the glowing aquatic plants in the 10,000 Demon Valley. Under his feet was a piece of land, and there were trees and woodlands in the distance. As far as he could see, there was a large natural open-air vegetable field, a winding river, and a hut by the river. In front of the hut, there were several stone platforms, on which some fish skins were scattered. In front of one of the stone platforms, a middle-aged man in gray clothes with neatly combed hair was writing with a pen in his hand. This was completely different from the prison in Han Fei's imagination. The Scattered Stars prison called this a prison? Whose prison could be so well built? The man didn't even raise his head but continued to write something carefully. Han Fei didn't know what to do for a while. Han Fei thought, that's a strong expert. He couldn't go up and greet him. What are you writing? Can I help you open your eyes? If he really did that, would he be slapped to death? Han Fei paused for a long time, only to see the man raise his eyelids and glance at Han Fei. He said casually, build your own house, cut the wood, and cook the vegetables in the kitchen. Han Fei? Han Fei was speechless. Is she so easygoing? His words were quite gentle, without any arrogance, and without the slightest bit of the pressure of an expert. Han Fei asked, where's the kitchen? That person wrote something else and seemed to be very satisfied with his work. He even nodded his head in admiration. Then he straightened his body and looked at a stone platform by the river. There. Han Fei glanced around. You call that a kitchen? That was a stone platform. Wait, what's that? A seasoning box? Han Fei wanted to ask, brother, when did you transmigrate here? Why is he so awesome? As Han Fei perceived it, he found that what the hell were those seasonings? There were all kinds of dried spirit fruits, some of which had indeed been ground up. Han Fei thought for a moment and asked, "Where should I build my house?" The man didn't even raise his head and continued to write. "Whatever you want. This place is so big and empty." Han Fei found that his strength was still there. The spiritual chi here was just barely enough. He wasn't suppressed in all aspects, so he didn't care. "Since you want me to build a house, I'll build one. What's there to be afraid of?" After a while, the laborer Nine Tails, dragging a few big trees, ran over quickly. Han Fei casually chopped the wood into many pieces. Clank, clank, clank. Han Fei really built a treehouse. Halfway through, he heard the middle-aged man who was writing say, "You're impatient, so you should be more meticulous. After all, a house is for living. How can you just knock a few pieces of wood?" Han Fei thought of something and the Nine Tails stopped. Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Then, should I build a palace?" The man smiled faintly. "You should start small. Building a house is like cultivating. The foundation must be solid. Shortcomings in all aspects must be made up for. The cultivation and application of battle techniques must be seamless and reconstructed." Han Fei's eyelids twitched a few times. "Fine, you're the boss. You have to keep your word. I'll build it slowly, okay?" Han Fei hadn't figured out this man's way of doing things, but he felt it was strange that he even wanted to build a house. Before Han Fei continued, the man suddenly said, "Contractual spiritual beasts don't know how to appreciate and have no aesthetic sense. The wood has been nailed and cracked by it. Do it yourself." Han Fei took a breath. "Okay, I'll do it myself." The Nine Tails was despised by the man, so Han Fei immediately took it back. Han Fei thought to himself, "Isn't it just building a house? Let's see how I'll build a little by." Han Fei took a knife and began to chop every piece of wood and every pillar into the same length and size. He took out some materials from Forge the Universe and refined an iron hammer, a pile of nails, a plane, and some carving knives. Han Fei thought to himself, "Since I have nothing to do, I'll build a small house to scare you to death." Han Fei cleared a lawn of about 100 square meters, surrounded a small yard, and circled the land with a sharp wooden fence. There was no wind or waves here, so he didn't need to build a foundation. He just leveled the ground and set up piles on the ground. During the day, Han Fei was building a house, and the man was writing, not interfering with each other. When Han Fei was halfway through building the house, the man said lightly, "Go cook." "Han Fei? You were building a house, but now you want me to cook? Do you think I'm a servant?" Han Fei sneered. "I'll make a hot pot that will scare you to death." When Han Fei walked to the stone platform by the river, he found that there was a sea-swallowing seashell here at some point. The man said, "The materials are inside. Pick them and use them yourself." Han Fei picked up the sea-swallowing seashell, glanced at it, and was stunned. Fuck, flood dragon? Golden carp? Primordial chaos mussel? Trivariant golden ginseng? Han Fei was dumbfounded. This is too fucking extravagant, isn't it? Han Fei secretly took a breath and calmly took out the long-tailed golden carp trap. This carp was not big, only half a meter long. It should be good to make sweet and sour carp. However, Han Fei was dumbfounded when he took a look at the thing. Name: eight-tailed golden carp, dead. Introduction: it's a kind of enlightenment fish that can be found in special abysses at the bottom of the sea. It has a trace of dragon bloodline, is extremely fast, and has the ability to flash. Its eight-tailed feathers can borrow the power of heaven and earth to unleash weird sword sounds that can only be blocked by divine weapons. Level 62 quality, exotic, mutated. Spiritual energy greater than 58,652 points. Effect: when eaten, it can increase comprehension by 3 times in a short time. Collectible: eight-tailed feathers, 1-inch golden scales. Gudu. Han Fei was stunned. Level 62? A mutated exotic creature? It can increase comprehension by 3 times? Dragon bloodline? Is it really a carp? Han Fei took a deep breath, and with a thought, he threw out something that looked like a flood dragon. It was more than 20 meters long, not too big. However, Han Fei wasn't sure. After all, he had never eaten this thing before. There were even 2 horns on his head. Were those things a great supplement? Would it be the same as deer antlers? In the next moment, information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name: Mystifying Dragon Horns. Introduction: a deep-sea spirit flood dragon with a trace of dragon bloodline. It is extremely powerful and can reach 5 waves of power when it flips its tail. It can create mystifying dragon illusions. Level 63 quality: exotic, mutated. Spiritual energy greater than 486,552 points. Effect: if eaten for a long time, it can greatly increase one's vitality, strength, flesh, and bone strength. Collectible: Mystifying Dragon Horns, Mystifying Dragon Tendons, Mystifying Dragon Blood, Dragon Teeth, Dragon Scales, Dragon Vein Bones, Dragon Eyes, Gudu. Han Fei swallowed. Are all these fucking treasures going to be used as food? Han Fei secretly glanced at the middle-aged man who was writing. Who told me that this is a prisoner? He's a fucking master. Can a prisoner eat this? Prisoner my ass. Han Fei was stunned. He had always felt that he was extravagant enough. Who knew that there was something more extravagant? He didn't dare to look at the rest of the treasures. Wouldn't it be nice to use these creatures as materials? Wouldn't it be nice to use them to seal spirits? Why should he eat them? Seeing that Han Fei was still stunned, the man couldn't help but urge, "Hurry up, it's almost time for dinner." Oh. Han Fei originally wanted to use the materials in Forge the Universe. Now that he thought about it, it seemed a little embarrassing, so he decided not to take them out. However, Han Fei pondered for a long time. He had never eaten a dragon before. How should he make this thing? How troublesome. Han Fei sighed slightly. Forget it, let's make the sweet and sour carp first. Thinking of this, Han Fei put the 8-tailed golden carp on the stone platform and took out an ultra-quality long knife. After cleaning the carp, he was going to pull out the tendons on both sides, and then tilt the knife at a 45-degree angle to cut the fish into slices evenly. As a result, sparks flew as the saber slashed down. Han Fei swallowed again and looked at the ultra-quality spiritual weapon in his hand. Was there a limit on cooking utensils nowadays? Han Fei looked at the middle-aged man. Seeing that the latter didn't respond, he gritted his teeth, put away the ultra-quality long knife, and took out the cosmic sword. This time, he finally managed to cut it. However, what Han Fei didn't know was that when he took out the cosmic sword, the middle-aged man smiled faintly. Han Fei was about to clean it up when he heard the middle-aged man say, "Keep the tail and the scale." Han Fei frowned. Is it the 8-tailed feather and the 1-inch golden scale? He had been paying attention to these 2 things for a long time and was wondering how to ask for them. However, looking at the middle-aged man's casual look, Han Fei thought to himself, maybe he doesn't care about them at all. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 8:15. No one would believe him if he told others about this. For the first time, Han Fei felt that cooking was quite difficult. The oil in the pot was already boiling. Han Fei wrapped the carp with flour and shook off the excess flour. He placed the carp into the wok of oil and prepared to fry it until its skin was crispy. He wanted to let it cook a little before doing anything else. However, after the fish was fried for a long time, the flour was dried, and the fish skin and meat were still pink and tender. It didn't look like it was cooked at all. It was clearly raw meat. Han Fei scratched his head. That's too much. I'm the best chef of the Thug Academy, but I can't even make a fish now? Are you kidding me? Immediately, Han Fei made up his mind. I won't fry it anymore. Can't I refine it with spiritual energy? This time, Han Fei used the heaven-level, high-quality spiritual fire variation. When the spiritual fire popped up, the fish meat immediately began to ripen. With a thought from Han Fei, the boiling fish oil in the pot flew up and enveloped the 8-tailed golden carp, letting the fish oil penetrate into the fish meat and fry it in midair. A moment later, the fragrance of garlic filled the pot. He poured the sweet and sour oil into the pot, stewed it with water, and mixed some strawberry juice into the pot. For a moment, even the middle-aged man who had been calm the whole time couldn't help but put down the pen in his hand and watched Han Fei cooking in midair quietly. After finishing the meal, Han Fei took a breath and said, "Well, should I cook this flood dragon for the next meal? It's a bit difficult." The middle-aged man nodded slightly and finally put down the pen in his hand. He waved his hand, and a long table flew to the riverside. The middle-aged man glanced at the sweet and sour carp Han Fei made, sniffed it, and nodded slightly with a smile. "Sit down and eat." Han Fei felt that 10,000 tsunami jellyfish were roaring in his heart. "Since you're so satisfied, it seems that there will be another meal." However, Han Fei had never eaten such a fancy food before, and he couldn't help but be tempted. Before he ate, he glanced at the middle-aged man. This person was quite handsome and had a gentle face. He had the air of a scholar and always had a faint smile on his face. This person picked up a piece of fish and put it in his mouth. A strange light flashed in his eyes, but his expression didn't change much. As if sensing that Han Fei was staring at him, the man raised his eyes and looked at Han Fei. "Focus on your food." Han Fei grunted and also put a piece of fish into his mouth. Immediately, a rich fragrance blossomed among his taste buds. It was not greasy, and the fish was fragrant and tender like freshly made tofu. High-grade goods naturally couldn't be inferior. However, after a mouthful of fish, Han Fei's head became much clearer. 1 chopstick. 2 chopsticks. After eating about half a caddy of meat, Han Fei seemed to be frozen. He put one hand on the table and held the chopsticks with the other. However, his eyes were fixed. The middle-aged man glanced at Han Fei casually and continued to eat without saying anything. After an unknown period of time, Han Fei seemed to recall a lot of things in the past. He remembered the first time he learned how to use a rod, the first time he was beaten, the first time he fished, the first time he used a knife. Pictures of the past flashed quickly in his head. But every time he recalled it, Han Fei suddenly felt that there were many problems. It turned out that the force of a rod should be exerted in this way. It turned out that a knife should be hacked in this way, so that it could exert the most force and be the sharpest. It turned out that the spirit concentration art should be used in this way. It turned out that arrays could actually be drawn in this way. When Han Fei opened his eyes, he found that there was nothing on the table except for himself, who was sitting there holding the chopsticks. He subconsciously looked back, only to find that the middle-aged man had already been writing there. Han Fei subconsciously asked, "Have you finished eating?" The middle-aged man said without raising his head, "I finished eating yesterday." Han Fei? Han Fei immediately gasped. "Yesterday?" The middle-aged man said softly, "It'll be dinner time in another 6 hours. You can go cook after you finish your work." Han Fei was stunned. "It's dinner time again?" Han Fei asked timidly, "How long is the interval between meals here?" The middle-aged man replied casually, 12 hours. Han Fei was dumbfounded. "Damn it, it took me 18 hours to have a meal?" Han Fei immediately gasped. Without hesitation, he ran to his homestead and began to build a house. He was building a single-story, American-style garden house with a traditional triangular roof. The triangular roof structure was supported by pillars, and a fence was added between the pillars so that the pillars would not look out of place. 2 hours later, Han Fei opened the window, only to hear the middle-aged man's gentle voice. "It's almost dinner time. It's time to cook." Han Fei. A moment later, Han Fei looked at the horns of the mystifying dragon and found the cause of its death. There was a round hole in its head, which seemed to have been stabbed to death by a finger. Han Fei took a deep breath. "How can I eat this thing? I don't have any experience." Han Fei glanced at the middle-aged man, and the latter said casually, "Cut off the dragon's horns, extract the dragon bones, remove the dragon liver, and remove the dragon scales. If you don't eat the dragon head, chop it off. As for the rest, do as you see fit." Han Fei was intrigued. "Up to me? This thing is full of treasures. If you don't want it, I'll take it all." This time, Han Fei found it difficult to use the cosmic sword. After all, the cosmic sword hadn't recognized him as its master yet. The main reason was that extracting the dragon bones and tendons was quite troublesome. It took Han Fei more than half an hour to roughly clean up this thing. He tried to cut off the mystifying dragon's horns, but after a long time, he failed. Forget it. Anyway, I don't want the dragon head. I'll put it into Forge the Universe first. As for the dragon meat, Han Fei thought for a moment. Forget it. I don't have any experience. I'll make braised dragon meat, roasted dragon meat, and sliced dragon meat. Well, just 3. That's enough. Forget it. Let's have some fried dragon meat. A moment later, the middle-aged man saw spiritual energy flames soaring into the sky above the river, seasoning in the pot, and roasting dragon meat in the sky. Fortunately, no one saw this scene. Otherwise, Han Fei felt that he might have been beaten to death by the crowd. Dragon. Although it was not a real dragon, it had a trace of dragon bloodline. Even Han Fei couldn't bear to make so many fancy dragon dishes. But on second thought, Han Fei was quite happy. He had dragon tendons, and he had materials for the divine manipulation technique. He could even upgrade his fishing rod. The dragon bones were much stronger than the bones of the blue sea wandering dragon that had been dead for many years. They were really good stuff. It was 2 hours past mealtime. The two of them sat at a table by the river. The middle-aged man picked up slices of dragon meat, dipped them in vinegar, and put them into his mouth. Then, the middle-aged man picked up a piece of braised dragon meat, a piece of fried dragon meat, and a piece of fried dragon meat. Han Fei held a piece of fried dragon meat in his hand and looked at the middle-aged man. After a long time, the middle-aged man responded casually, "Not bad, but it's a bit too greasy." The middle-aged man was referring to the braised dragon meat. Han Fei was confused. He picked up a piece of braised dragon meat and stuffed it into his mouth, only to feel that energy surged into his body and his blood surged. Forcibly suppressing the throbbing, Han Fei stuffed it into his mouth. Greasy? What delicious dragon meat. Even if you don't eat it, I still want to eat it. Unfortunately, Han Fei's skin was already red and he breathed as if he were breathing fire after eating only 5 kilograms. He opened his mouth, only to see flames spurting out of it. The middle-aged man glanced at Han Fei in disdain. If you really want to breathe heavily during your meal, turn your head to the side and breathe. Han Fei's eyes were all red. What am I panting for? I'm so hot. Immediately, Han Fei left his seat and ran to the river. With a thought, he poured water from the river over his head. No. I have to cultivate the 108 desolate god body in the river. Plop. Han Fei jumped into the river and made all kinds of weird postures. While picking up a piece of dragon meat, the middle-aged man looked at Han Fei in the water now and then. After Han Fei completed the 108 postures, the middle-aged man slightly narrowed his eyes. When he narrowed his eyes, Han Fei didn't notice that the middle-aged man seemed to be calculating something with his fingers. This time, Han Fei didn't sit for a whole day. Although the dragon meat was very powerful, so was the desolate god body. In just 4 hours he managed to calm his surging blood and qi. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man said casually, "You can sleep now." Han Fei was speechless. My bed hasn't been made yet, and I'm going to sleep already? Han Fei couldn't help but murmur, "Just sleep, sleep wherever I sleep." Then he really ran to his unfinished house, looked at the wooden planks on the ground, and suddenly took out a shell more than 6 meters long from his sea-swallowing seashell. He drained the water in the mussel with the water control technique, lay directly in the shell, and began to sleep. Han Fei couldn't remember the last time he had a good sleep. Although cultivators didn't need to sleep, eating and sleeping were the blessings of life. The happiness of ordinary people was not easy for cultivators. Han Fei slept quite soundly until he heard the patter of rain. Han Fei? Han Fei opened his eyes, stunned. This is a treasure trove. There's no sky. Where did the rain come from? Are you fucking kidding me? Han Fei quickly got up and walked out of the house. Sure enough, a light drizzle started to fall. Then he saw the middle-aged man sitting in front of a green stone, holding a teacup in his hand, from which steam was rising. Within 10 meters of the stone platform, there was no rain. On the stone platform, there was a teapot, and there was a teacup on the opposite side. Han Fei was stunned to see this. Was this prepared for him? Sure enough, the middle-aged man didn't even look back but said casually, "Sit down and have some tea." Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.